Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been paying attention to the news or X, you may have seen that I made a very an important political announcement that I would like to reaffirm here as we start this show. I would like to announce that I, Tim Pool, am fully endorsing for president of these United States, Donald Trump. I don't know why the media thought that my thread of snark was in any way an actual endorsement of RFK Jr. That being said, a lot of people told me it was mean because RFK Jr. thought it was a real endorsement. And I felt kind of bad about it. But basically the story is it's a slow news day. And the big news trending on social media was that Joe Rogan had endorsed RFK Jr. He did not. He said nice things about him. He did say he was the only one who made sense. So many people saw it as an unofficial endorsement. And Donald Trump personally responded on Truth Social saying that Joe Rogan, I wonder how much booze he's going to get the next time he shows up to UFC. Many of the most diehard Trump supporters began insulting and attacking Joe Rogan. Then I got involved and said, don't make enemies of friends, which turned into this whole thing where I said, okay, fine, I'll vote for RFK Jr. And then the media took it seriously. Dave Smith chimed in, and like I said, it's a slow news day, especially when they're writing about me. But this is a big component of Kamala Harris is leading in the polls. She's leading in the betting markets in aggregate in both. And the response from a lot of Trump supporters is, oh, you can't believe it. It's all lies. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to redouble your efforts if you want this man to win. And we're going to talk a lot about this. We got a bunch of other news. In Virginia, they're switching by executive order. They're switching to paper ballots. This is big. ActBlue has made some moves because they're being investigated. And we got CNN saying that pillows are funding the subversion of democracy. That's what happens when it's a slow news day, okay? What can I tell you? But it'll be fun. It's Friday. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and buy Cast Brew coffee. Why? I don't know, because Alex Stein is screaming in our commercial. And it's good. It's good coffee. Some say the best. Everyone agrees. At least that's what I was told. Appalachian Nights Whole Bean or Ground. These are people's favorites. But Ian's Graphene Dream is quickly taking the rank. Is moving up in the ranks, I should say. So go to castbrew.com if you want to support our work. Also, head over to timcast.com. Click Join Us to become a member and support our work directly. Look, if you don't have a sense of humor, if you don't understand nuance or whatever, maybe the show's not for you. I don't know. I'm trolling on Twitter. I'm going to call out people who are lying or who are causing damage because I think we need to win this one. And if you want to support those efforts, which we'll get into in great detail as we start this show off, go to timcast.com, click Join Us, support our work, $10 a month as a member, and you make all this possible. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Caitlin Sinclair.
Thanks for having me. And if Alex Stein's face is on coffee beans, I want in.
Yeah, it's Alex Stein's primetime grind, 2 times caffeine. That's
pretty tempting.
His face. It's good stuff. What do you do?
What do I do? Well, I definitely don't skate yet, but I have to say that skate park is pretty...
Yeah, well, whenever you want to learn.
I'm wearing my Converse, so.
Oh, all right.
I just joined the Turning Point team with Charlie Kirk and the folks over there in Phoenix. So really excited to be in this movement in a completely different capacity. I've been a reporter for One American News for the past 5 years, taken on the streets of Manhattan. So this is a completely different role. And we are engaging the young generations that really need to be involved in this movement. So I'm really excited.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out. Shane's hanging out.
Awesome. It's good to be here. Host of Inverted World Live. It's every Sunday at 6 p.m. Also, singer of a band called The Joy Feed. You can hear our new song right now, pinned to the top of my profile. Check it out after the show. See you later.
You do everything. You're
I'm doing it all.
And music. I love it.
A man of many talents.
Yeah.
What's up, Hannah Claire?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here on this Friday. I'm glad Caitlin can be with us. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com, Scanner News. I'm happy to be back with all of you. Thanks for everything you do. Let's get started.
But before we do, there are 2 big stories that haven't developed enough for us to do anything more on. But I will mention Trump's his airplane diverted. I believe where did it divert to? Was it
Billings?
Billings? Because of a mechanical issue. There's not much more there. I believe he landed safely. Is there anything? I don't know.
They're sweeping the plane.
And then there's emergency vehicles outside of the White House, but Joe Biden's not there. So there's not much more to go on for those stories. So there's some breaking news. But let's jump to this one from Newsweek. MAGA turns on Joe Rogan after praise for RFK Jr. Dude is dumb. Well, there you go. They say some of Joe Rogan's fans are not happy he spoke glowingly of independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy while comparing him to other politicians. I'd like to pause right there and say the dudes who are calling him stupid and saying they don't watch his show, I wouldn't call fans. However, there are some, fine. The podcaster made the comments Thursday during an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, where he explained why he liked RFK Jr. I'm a fan. He's the only one that doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable, intelligent. Kennedy is running as one of 4 independent candidates. Yeah, we know. Rogan on Friday followed up the comments by stating on X post that it was not an endorsement, saying, for the record, this isn't an endorsement. It's me saying I like RFK Jr. as a person, and I really appreciate the way he discusses things with civility and intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. MAGA, which stands for Make America Great Again, and I'd be surprised if someone didn't know that, is a tagline used, blah, blah, blah. So we have this quote. So I've never been a Joe Rogan fan, can't stand him. Yes, he has a popular podcast, but I've always thought he was absolutely politically dumb. He's great at figuring things out 2 years after we do. What a legend. So did it surprise me when he endorsed idiot RFK Jr. today? LOL, no. We are talking about the same effing idiot who endorsed Bernie Sanders, right? He's the podcast equivalent of a dumb blonde joke, wrote one person on X, formerly Twitter, to their 2.2 million followers. I believe that was Kettard who wrote that.
They don't want to print his name? That's so disrespectful.
That is funny. They didn't want to mention his name. Self-described MAGA business analyst JDO Post says, Joe Rogan thinks RFK Jr. is the only candidate that makes sense to him. Tell me how TF a man that wants to allow full-term abortions makes sense to anyone. Well, he did walk that back. And I think the criticism there is kind of the wishy-washiness of the issue. They're going to mention some other people criticizing Joe. And, Donald Trump chimed in. And this is the big hit. And I also think the very big mistake. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump posted on Truth, it will be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring, MAGA 2024. I don't think Trump posted that. I think Trump's got bad people around him. I don't think Trump pays that much attention to the bickerings of podcasts, but this is stupid. It's very stupid. Joe Rogan has a truth-telling podcast that has red-pilled many a person. Mm-hmm. It is one of the most popular podcasts in the world. On Spotify, it's #1. On Apple, it's like number 6 or 7. I think for a variety of reasons, it's not the biggest in the world anymore. It may still be. But metrics are really hard to track. But he's dropped ranks. He used to be #1 on iTunes all the time. Now he's like 6 or 7. Certainly one of the biggest. And he's reaching regular people. I can tell you personally that I have many friends who are lefty liberals waving pride flags, and they listen to Joe Rogan every day.
Same.
And so when Joe Rogan says Fauci is bad, when he says Kamala doesn't even make sense because she has no campaign positions, when he says Joe Biden's brain doesn't work, this is one of the ways, if not the only way, some of these people will get exposed to any real truth and maybe ask themselves a question. So why would you then attack Joe Rogan for saying something nice about RFK Jr.?
It's weird that they just chose now to get mad, because if you've listened to anything else he said about Trump, he said, I think publicly, I'm not having him on my show. And he's also been very favorable to RFK in the past.
I think they're scared.
Well, that's probably the difference now.
Yeah. Cat Surd's pretty scared over there. And the thing is, if Rogan came out in support of Donald Trump today, let's say, and made that public, Cat Turd would have been all over that, saying
all of
we
these
love
people.
him. And now, and look at the tweets we saw on social media. I've never been a fan of Joe Rogan, says Mr. Cat Turd. So it's just pandering to. This is exactly what they want us to do.
I think they're scared because the polls have shifted for Kamala.
Yep.
Not that we trust polls, right? But the prediction markets have also shifted for Kamala. The Trump campaign's calling it a honeymoon phase. Donald Trump does a press conference. They are taking this stuff very seriously. So when Kyle Rittenhouse comes out to, what does he have, like 2 million followers, I guess?
Something like that, yeah.
What is he? He gets a struggle session. And this is really what gets me involved. I'm like, dude, we talked about Kyle Rittenhouse when they struggle sessioned him. And I'm like, don't do that. It's stupid.
Right.
Kyle Rittenhouse has got never Trumpers around him. You need to be his friend and pull him away from the crackpots who are whispering lies into his ears that Trump is bad on 2A. Trump's not perfect on 2A, but he's the best on 2A relative to what we got. And RFK Jr. is not going to win. And RFK Jr. is probably a gun grabber. He's probably going to be for some restrictions.
Yeah, I thought he was famously weak on 2A. I think there are a couple things that conservatives will point out and be like, oh, he does these things right, but there are a lot of things that he does incorrectly. I mean, abortion is one of the issues that, especially Christian conservatives don't like him on. But with the Joe Rogan podcast, you mentioned a liberal friend who listened to it. I actually was introduced to it by someone who is not political at all. And that's what I think one of the biggest flaws in attacking Joe Rogan is. There are people who just consume media who are not that interested in politics, who are living life totally fine. but who will ultimately probably turn up at the polls this fall. And if you're starting to jump down the throat of everyone at all times, you're either going to disincentivize them to partake, or you're going to drive them into the arms of whoever they think is less annoying.
You're going to alienate anyone that's maybe on the fence right now. And the entire sentiment that they were attacking Joe Rogan for saying about, oh, how RFK Jr. is maybe open-minded, he attacks ideas and opinions, but not people. That entire sentiment was just echoed by these extremists on both sides. And we need to focus on the vision, on the ideas, on the plan, and that's the only way we'll win.
Here's a question for everybody, and you can answer. And the people in the chat, if you're listening in a live answer, and you can super chat. Do you think that if people knew the 100% truth, they would vote for Donald Trump?
Depends how they view truth.
No. I mean, like, no question, no nonsense truth. Like, quite literally, they're like, oh, the Burisma thing's real. Do you think if the average person was exposed to the literal truth of things, Joe Biden's Burisma deals, Hunter Biden's deals, Hunter Biden foreign dealings, the Hunter Biden laptop, do you think they would vote for Donald Trump?
I think their hate of Trump trumps the truth for them.
I am not saying, I am saying quite literally if they knew the truth.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if they're rejecting to listen to it. I'm saying if a person sat down and went, I didn't know that was true. Wow.
Yeah.
Would they vote for Trump?
I don't think so.
You don't think people?
Some people, I think there's some people who hate Trump.
Is there a
so
percentage
much.
of people who, had they learned the truth, they'd vote for Trump?
I think there's a percentage of people, but I think there's still a large majority of Americans that they don't even want to hear the facts. There are a lot of females in this country right now that are voting for Kamala Harris because of the whole women card. I just did this men on the street interview over in Arizona. A handful of these women I interviewed had no idea where Kamala Harris stands on sports, putting men in women's sports. Their answer to me was, oh, I didn't know that. But they don't want to know. They don't actually want to be educated.
If the answer is no, then just go home. Don't bother campaigning. There's no convincing these people. It's over. Trump's going to lose, or that's it, right?
I mean, that's what the cat turds want.
Well, the answer is actually, most people are saying yes. Maybe I should actually put a poll up. The answer is yes. If people knew the truth, they vote for Trump. That's it. There's no question.
I guess where I'm coming from is there's so many people you could show certain things, like actual video, and they still refuse to see that truth.
Yep.
But that's not knowing the truth if they refuse to watch it.
If you're saying
or they reject it.
They get it, and they are actually digesting that truth and then understanding it. I guess my faith in that is not there.
I think the orange man bad syndrome is still stronger, even over.
So is there a percentage of people who, when learning the truth, would vote for Donald Trump?
I think a percentage.
And what's that percentage? Is it 1, 10?
I think it's low, but it could be enough to change. To sway the vote.
If the answer is you can't convince these people, then why even talk about it?
To mobilize people who are feeling nihilistic about voting at all, who are leaning conservative.
So you're saying that there are people who know the truth already but don't want to vote?
I think the point is to target the low propensity voters, the low propensity voters in this country.
I think probably 60% of people have no idea what's going on in the world. And if you go to the average suburb and you ask them about trans issues or foreign policy, they're going to say, huh?
Right. Like the men on the street I was just talking about. But how shocking is that? What news are you possibly consuming? Are you consuming no news at all?
None.
So I think we still stay in this fight. I mean, there's no point of going home now, but
I think that you'd likely see if you took every person in this country who every person of voting age, and they were lined up and blink in their mind, they knew the actual truth. There's no question of watching a video, reading. No, they just knew what actually happened. Then you'd end up with like 65, 70% voting for Trump. It'd be massive. There's a lot of people who are evil. There are a lot of people who believe in a system where the powerful should control the weaker. Democrats represent this very well. They lie to their constituents. They treat them like morons. And so I think you'd get a massive shift. The point is, if there is any possibility that the truth will make someone vote for Donald Trump, then Trump supporters should be praising Joe Rogan, even if it's 2%. 2% of people, upon learning the truth about Fauci, Kamala Harris, and Biden, will vote for Donald Trump. They say, nope, we don't want it. We don't want that 2%.
I also just think they should stop going to hysterics over everything. Everything. Hysterics all the time. If Joe Rogan's not voting for Trump, who cares? There's so many other people. Like, if you are looking for Joe Rogan to personally convert every inactive voter into someone who is going to vote for your candidate, you're doing it wrong. You should be looking to Scott Pressler and saying, how can I register voters? What conversations do I need to have to shift the outcome of this election?
Right.
There's a level of like emotional response that I just find like to be unproductive. And the question about the truth is interesting because, if the voters knew the truth about, let's say, the Burisma scandal, and they all knew like what the Biden family had done, maybe they would vote for Donald Trump. I tend to think there are never Trumpers who would say he's too orange and I'll never do it. But now we're actually shifting towards, would that be enough to make them not vote for Kamala Harris? I still think the bigger issue is make them vote at all.
I think the answer is, if people knew, it's 100%. The reason people hate Trump is because they believe lies from MSNBC and CNN and other garbage.
But you really need to learn the truth when you're witnessing the truth every day. When you're looking in your wallet, you're looking at your bank account, you're trying to fill up your gas tank.
But then they turn on MSNBC, who says, you look in your wallet, right? Trump's fault.
So we're still talking about, you're talking about people that are seeking some sort of truth. They're consuming some sort of news. There are people out there that aren't seeking or looking for any information. And I think those people are maybe more open-minded.
Like the reality of the collapsing economy is the thing that's pressing them.
And so what motivates those voters? That tends to just be voting against the administration.
Right.
Or not voting at all.
I mean, yeah, but if someone's motivated because they have no money, they tend to vote out. They vote they vote against the incumbent, whatever it may be. Kamala Harris is in a weird position because she's not the incumbent, but she still kind of is. I love it when she's like, day one, I'm going to get these prices down. It's like, but you're
what are you doing now here,
there
team?
now? What are you doing?
It'll be day 1,440 something.
All right, well, let me pull up the next piece of this story. So we got this from NJ.com. And I suppose I should pull up the Mediaite one because that's funny too. Trump loses another big-time podcaster. These people are as stupid as you could possibly imagine. What is this? Tim Pool. Oh my, here we go. Tim Pool backtracks on RFK Jr. endorsement, claims was only trolling after MAGA backlash. Oof, I really stepped in it.
What did you do?
You've never trolled
people
before.
Are so stupid. NJ.com. This guy, Matt Arco, saw the one tweet where I said, okay, I'm voting for RFK Jr. now. It's part of a series of tweets where I'm like, stop attacking moderates.
Yep.
Why are Trump supporters attacking? Why is Trump tweeting at Joe Rogan? I said, okay, fine. I'm voting for RFK Jr. now. And then RFK Jr. quote tweeted it saying, thank you, Tim. I appreciate your support for the Constitution. And then
that was hard to read. I'll be honest with you.
The second it was out.
Shout out
We're in the pot there.
Myron Gaines was like, I don't know what's worse, that you actually believe this tweet was real or that something about Shmuley, I don't know. But like, I actually felt really bad that he thought it was real. And so I was like, look, you're a good dude, but I'm not voting for you.
I was like, is Tim going to be guilt tripped now into going through with his endorsement?
Yeah, how bad do you feel, Tim?
And so then this guy wrote another story saying, what did he write? MAGA podcaster backpedals. Oof, I really stepped in it. There's like 8 tweets of me being like, you're driving people away. Stop attacking Joe Rogan. Stop attacking Kyle Rittenhouse. And then in response to like someone calling me a cuss or a slur or something, I said, okay, I'm voting for RFK Jr. now. And then I think the reality is 2 things. It's a slow news day. So they write about me because they got nothing else to write about. It's a boring day. And they know it's not true, but they want to say it anyway. Because anything that allows them to say, oh, Trump's losing support or whatever, it's how they manipulate this game. So actually, we have the tweets here, and I can show you the threads. And then there's I don't know if I have the other one pulled up on Rogan. Tim Pool backtracks on his endorsement. Oh, please. If they actually show the other tweets, but...
Oh, man.
RFK Jr. said, I'm so grateful to you, Tim, for your confidence in me, but most of all for your steadfast defense of the Constitution and relentless love for our country.
Oh.
I felt embarrassed for him.
Poor guy.
But I get it, because he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
And he's been on our show, too. I mean, like,
He's a guy. I like him. He's not going to win. He should endorse Donald Trump, and Trump should give him a position on environmental toxins and health issues in government. The Hodge twins got it right away. They responded with a laughing emoji. Tons of other people were posting. They were the
people that wrote these articles knew too. They also knew.
I get people who will be like, "Oh, I love the show, but I just hate this thing Tim is tweeting," and I'll know that you just did it as a troll. Like, I don't think people know. I don't think people really understand how Twitter works in relationship with like the media ecosystem. They take everything very seriously, and I can understand that in the sense that like, it's a very stressful time. A lot of people are really concerned about the future, and they're looking to people with influence to, help them make sense of it. On the other hand, like, it's not just a series of press releases.
I'm from
Or
New York.
Junior.
Our language is literally sarcasm, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
I saw someone say that Tim wasn't a serious person, and he tweeted that, correct, I am not a serious person. And I added to that, correct, I am not a serious person, says man that bought a 100-foot billboard to put his rooster on in Times Square.
To be fair, I know it's funny to say that, but we were advertising a show that was making money.
But still.
So this is important for people to understand.
Oh,
Chicken City, at its launch, we put a big campaign behind it, and it's a live stream of our chickens, and we were pulling about $20K a month.
Yeah, that part is no joke. But the fact that I was
right,
on a
and so
billboard with a rooster
You were.
That
is
sounds
insane.
iconic.
So it is funny when I say I bought a billboard of my rooster. It's like, well, it was a legitimate business that was making money, and we thought we take some of that money and put it on a billboard. And then people ask me, well, why don't you keep making the same amount of money off Chicken City? And I was like, I really don't want to focus on growing my chicken live stream. It was fun, but maintaining that level of income requires a lot of work and promotion and marketing. It's fine if people want to hang out in Chicken City and watch the chickens, but it's not going to be a big staple for the business.
Do the chickens know you're saying this?
Well, Roberto Jr. has
I'd
been
rather
advertised.
a billboard of Chicken City than another billboard of the Kardashians any day. So
That's true. Well, RFK Jr. tweeted, I said, oof, I really stepped in at this time. Holy crap, I'm voting for Donald Trump. This isn't, WTF. He says, there's plenty of time to change your mind. You know where to find me. I'll be working to unite America. I do like RFK Jr.
Same.
And what Joe Rogan said about him being nice and avoiding attacks is about 95% true. Billboard Chris called him out for saying bad things about, I think, Moms for Liberty. And so the dude is far from perfect. He tried playing this high road attack on me when I criticized him for saying Indigenous Peoples Day. He's like, this is beneath you, Tim. And, you lose credibility when you say these things. And I'm like, oh, spare me, dude. And I was like, on the show, I said, and that's why I waited 45 minutes to bring it up, because it's not the principal issue. But come on, people care about American culture. That being said, he's a nice guy. And he sounds like a fun guy. Kind of weird, but that's okay. But he's not going to win. He should probably in October drop out of the race, endorse Donald Trump, and Donald Trump should give him a position in the administration.
His Fauci book is incredible. It's a horror book.
Oh,
it's
so good.
horrifying, but it's a really good book.
But that's the thing. Like, Rogan was the staunch advocate for exposing what was happening during those times. So it just boggles my mind that we're having conservatives attack him when he still is one of our biggest allies and just a common sense dude. So it makes no sense.
Do you think it's a compliance issue? There's like a faction of the MAGA movement that expects everyone to fall in line.
I think there's extreme ends to both parties, and when MAGA gets attacked, I think you see the really ugly side. And think about someone like a Vivek Ramaswamy, right? He says this all the time. We will lose if we keep focusing on the noise. At the end of the day, you don't win elections with having celebrities and the Joe Rogans of the world endorsing you anyway. You win elections by registering voters, by chasing ballots, by engaging in your community. So at the end of the day, this is all noise. And I think it's so heavily calculated. They want us to fall into these traps. They want to bait Donald Trump into saying or tweeting or posting on Truth Social some outrageous attack, right? So I think what Vivek always says is we need to focus on the vision, focus on the policies, because guess who's not focusing on policies over there? Miss Kamala Coconut Tree. So
Vivek's fantastic. He had this great thread. I saw it on Instagram. It was on X, but it was also on Instagram, where he's talking about, I think he was talking about like Tampon Tim stuff and these weird names. And he's like, he was basically saying this is stupid.
Right.
Now is the time to go at issues instead of trying to play these silly games. I completely agree with him, though he articulated it way better than I ever could. And it was like three slides long or whatever. And I think he gets it. And
totally.
Trump did this press conference the other day where he was like, Kamala's not smart enough to do a conference. She won't do a conference. Seemed like he was trying to goad her into doing a conference, challenging her. She ended up answering a couple questions and then walking away. Trump knows that if she goes on TV for an extended period of time, it's going to hurt her really bad. And that's what he wants. But I got to tell you, he's going to the front gates and banging on the door. That's not how you get the job done. And the diehard Trump supporters who are like, if Kyle Rittenhouse says a bad word of Trump, we are going to go at him and destroy him. If Joe Rogan, we're going to insult him and call him stupid. And none of these things are effective strategies.
It's become the MAGA Olympics, and it's a demoralization campaign to people who tune into it, because they become struggle sessions. And I get it. We want to win, and we want to change the country, make it better, but pushing people away.
And the Krasensteins and other liberals jump on this in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's not just the goof tweet of me endorsing RFK Jr., it's the attack on Trump supporters and Joe Rogan. They're loving it. They're going to go to every moderate who's not really political and say, do you see how Trump is attacking Joe Rogan? Why would you do that to the largest podcaster in the world, the most successful, famous normie guy who is telling the truth about all of these things? It gives Trump, he calls out the lies.
Sense. And the thing is, Democrats are a very negative party in terms of messaging, just in my observation, right? They're pretty good about keeping their infighting behind closed doors. It doesn't always work, but for the most part, they're pretty good about demanding compliance. Everyone votes the same way, whatever, when you get to Congress. The best part of Trump's campaign to me, especially in sort of late 2023 and through the beginning of this year, was how positive it was in contrast to how negative Joe Biden's campaign was. Joe Biden is doom and gloom. Joe Biden is always referencing Charlottesville, which got debunked. He's always talking about how divided we are. He's always warning of political violence. Harris has basically picked up the same rhetoric that he's the bad guy and I'm the good guy and here's what's going to happen. But when you would see Trump speak, he would talk about, things are tough right now, but they're going to get better and things are turning around. And I think that is something Democrats cannot leverage. And to just become this party that fights within itself is a waste of time. Like, we're less than 90 days before the election. If you can give the American people hope, I think you're in a much better position. It's also much more natural messaging. Let the Democrats be negative. Let the Republicans do something else.
Loves to exploit suffering.
Yeah.
All the time. That's all Biden did. His whole career has been...
And fear.
Fear, right. Fear and suffering. With Trump, do you think there's any bit of him having a thin skin and knowing that Rogan has said, I don't want him on my show, that he's kind of waiting? Because it's like, when he says fake news, I think he also wants to be loved by those people.
Of course.
He still wants the big networks to love him.
We know Trump. I think he has an ego. I think he, as much as he loves engaging with people, and he's a great person. He's the same person you see on stage as he is behind closed doors, but he also wants to be loved also. And
I get it.
It's important to him.
Especially since he grew up kind of part of the mainstream media, right? Like, he owned the Miss America pageant.
He
was the media's darling. They loved him. And that's another problem with what we're seeing, right? This complete switch. A month ago, this is the same media that was telling us Kamala Harris was so historically unpopular that Joe Biden was going to potentially need to replace her. And now look what we're seeing. The love for Kamala Harris could not be more inauthentic. It is not real.
So I want to jump to this. This is from Newsweek. It's a similar story. Conservative podcaster predicts Donald Trump headed for election loss. Because I tweeted, I think Trump is on track to lose right now. There are things that have to turn around. The pulling in of Kamala Harris has greatly benefited Democrats, and they've got shadow campaign plans. So we'll see what happens. But it is this reaction that we're seeing from the Trump supporting diehards targeting independents, which is going to be a massive net negative for Trump. And I'll tell you why. There are a lot of people who vote emotionally. I would say the overwhelming majority. Would you guys agree? The overwhelming. And what happens? What happens when there's some dude who's like, I don't know a whole lot about Trump, but I was into Joe Rogan. That Fauci stuff's crazy. Is that true? Well, I don't want the Democrats to get back in. And then some guy goes on Twitter and says, F you, you stupid, moron. And then he's going to be like, screw you. I'll vote for Kamala. Like, there's going to be a lot of people who literally do this because they're not smart and they don't care, or they're spiteful. So right now, the strategy should be, like building alliances and being the party that accepts. I want to show you the aggregate polling right now. Kamala Harris is up 0.5. What do they say? They say, this is not true. I see. Look at all these polls showing Kamala Harris winning. And I hear from all the Trump supporters saying it's fake polling. We don't believe polls. So when the polling was favorable for Trump, everyone believed it. Now you don't. We don't have to trust polls. That's fine. They were wrong in 2016. But that was 8 years ago. So the pollsters have changed. If you don't want to believe me, if you do, entirely up to you. How about we go betting odds? The betting, this is Battlegrounds. Betting odds is here. Kamala Harris is beating Donald Trump 50.4 to 48.1. So in the betting odds with BetOnline, Betfair, Bovada, Bwin, Polymarket, Predicted, and Smarkets, Kamala Harris is ahead in, I think all of them. She's tied on Bwin and Bovada, and she's winning every other one. The one thing I can give Trump is he's got 1.4% in the battleground states, which is tremendous, and that's where it really matters. That's good news. But you cannot ignore that you're seeing these polls. You cannot ignore the betting odds. These are people actually wagering money because they think Trump's going to lose. And I'll lead off the opening of the segment with this. This is the famous comic that has been showed time and time again It's a guy in the middle between the blue and the red and left and the right saying both sides make some good points. The blue dude pushes him. The red guy catches him and says, "You all right?" And he goes, "Yeah, thanks." And the Democrat blue guy says, "Why are you siding with the bad guys?" This was made, I think this is years old, to exemplify people like Colin Wright and Elon Musk finding themselves in alliance with Republicans and Trump supporters because the Democrats had lost their minds. For what reason would Donald Trump's most ardent supporters decide to do the opposite and push people back to the Democrats? This is the exact... This meme exemplifies why so many people didn't want to be Democrat anymore. Mm-hmm. So the response is, screw you, you're stupid, and F you anyway? Well, if you want to lose, I guess.
They could add another frame and push him back, and then another frame of the person just
put Cat Turt's face on the guy.
Just goes back and forth.
Right.
Just invert it, make the blue guy red, and then put Cat Turt's face on it, shoving him back to the Democrats.
And just go on and on until people get fed up, and then that's where the nihilism with elections come in, and they're like, all right, well, screw it, I don't care.
This is the kind of stuff attacking Joe Rogan that results in people who may have been like, I guess I'll vote for Trump, to go, I'm not voting for any of these crackpots. They're all crazy.
Yeah.
That's what I think the biggest problem for, both politicians is right now, to have people who are saying, I don't like either option. And the voter looks a little bit different for a conservative versus, Harris. Mm-hmm. Harris has an issue because, especially very pro-Palestine voters, those who are, feel really strongly that Joe Biden has mishandled that issue. Mm. They want her to call for an absolute ceasefire, right? Yeah. And to say no terms at all. And that puts her in a very difficult position if they stand by that, which some of them won't. Some of them will ultimately vote for the Democrat anyways. But if there's enough that are saying we're sitting this one out, or if RFK, because I ultimately think that RFK Jr. steals more Democrats than he does conservatives.
He's stealing from both sides.
From both, but I think it's more Democrats.
It's more Democrat.
Either way, the Trump voter, I think in if there are voters on the left that sit out for those reasons, the voters on the right will sit out because they're like, I don't know. Everyone's fighting. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Like the apathy is what really hurts people who might lean conservative.
Yeah, I like what you said before about authenticity, though. Like, this is exactly what Americans are looking for. They don't care about the name calling. They don't care about the Twitter wars. All of this is just noise, and they care about everyday issues. And Trump was doing a really good job, has always been authentic, but he was doing a really good job at focusing solely on the issues, how he's going to help your average American. Like we were talking about, your average American doesn't even know how to interpret tweets or interpret things that we're posting on X. So they definitely don't care about the back and forth and what celebrities are saying, right? So,
but they care how much they're paying for groceries.
Exactly.
And that's so I think with some of this, someone quoted a spokesperson from the Trump campaign who had said basically it's a sugar high. Mm-hmm. That's why there's sort of this honeymoon stage. There's such a big relief that Joe Biden is gone and whatever else, and some of this will simmer down. But the other thing is I think that the Trump campaign really needs to regain the news cycle. They are always in the defensive position because Kamala announced her campaign and then she picked her VP, and like she is sort of setting the cycle and they're responding. And once they're able to pivot back to an offensive position, I think they'll be better off.
And Jack Posobiec pointed out his prediction that by the fall, Joe Biden resigns from the presidency. Kamala Harris gets a second honeymoon phase as president of the United States, 47. This spikes all of Trump's merchandise, which says 47, Agenda 47. She then is the 47th president. Second honeymoon in October. That's the October surprise.
I think that feels right.
Well, even before that, the DNC.
Or aliens.
I think the DNC will after the DNC, we'll see her up at least 5 points.
It'll be a romance period.
Yep.
So J.R. Williams, a Timcast member on YouTube Tim says, don't say weird, don't say tampon Tim, don't criticize Joe Rogan, don't question Tim. Any other dictas, Tim? Here's a question. Do you want to win? I know the answer. The answer is yes. Okay. So let me ask you another question. What is gained from saying someone is weird? Honest question. Is that going to convince large block, small block, medium block of voters? What is gained by saying tampon Tim? Well, as predicted, CBS ran a headline saying Republicans criticized Tim Walz for providing free menstrual products in schools. They don't explain in the headline that it's for boys, but the average person's not going to read the story. They're going to see the headline and say, that's a weird thing to criticize the guy for. Hence, the name didn't really work. I think Vivek Ramaswamy pointed this out. Don't criticize Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has the largest podcast, likely the largest or one of the largest in the world, where he speaks to people of all different political backgrounds, and you have the opportunity to make friends with him,
right?
To gain some influence from him. So the question then is, why would you want to put that at risk? And it's fine to criticize Joe Rogan, but when he weekly says he likes RFK Jr., why attack him, call him a dumb blonde, insult him, say his show's not good? That doesn't make any sense. Kyle Rittenhouse, same thing. So don't question everybody, but the question really should be is, what is the purpose of the actions being taken? Now, I'll tell you my opinion. I don't align. I'm not a conservative. And it's funny when Newsweek calls me a conservative because it shows you that there's no center because the media is only far left. And anybody who doesn't align with the far left must be a conservative, which I'm not.
You're a MAGA podcaster. What do you mean?
Sure, I like Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump, but that's only because of the truth. Mm-hmm. And the truth is the media lied left and right about everything Trump has done. They smear him and manipulate him, and his policies are actually pretty good. I even got Dave Smith to recognize some of his policies are pretty good, and he agreed with me, though he disagreed on a lot of other things. So what is the strategy then? We want middle-of-the-road people who aren't Trump's hardcore base, who are going to vote for him no matter what, to say, okay, I'll vote for Donald Trump. Are you going to accomplish that by having a character called Cat Turd, called Joe Rogan, a dumb blonde?
Definitely not.
Well, the answer is no. You're not going to gain votes from doing it, so why do it? By all means, you guys, you do whatever you want to do. Don't listen to me. What do I know? I just think insulting people is going to cost you votes and not gain you votes. And if in response to Kyle Rittenhouse, people said, Kyle, we love you, we defended you, we supported you, let's do a conversation, make a podcast about this so we can convince all the people that Trump is the right choice, then you would have had Kyle Rittenhouse with 2 million followers on with one of Trump's campaign members on a show, any show, where Trump's going to have a lawyer or Trump Jr. or someone saying, trust us, we're going to do all the things you want to do, we're not, and then it would have been a massive net positive. Instead, they attack and insult. The left immediately picks up all the attacks on Kyle Rittenhouse and says Trump supporters are in a cult and they're weird and they're mean to people. And then regular people who don't follow go, wow, they were mean to people. That is very mean. Then Joe Rogan, same strategy. You can hate Joe Rogan, you can hate Kyle Rittenhouse, you can call him whatever you want to call him, but I tell you this, you lose votes from doing it.
Mm-hmm. I think the tampon thing, I mean, it's funny, but it's an obvious retaliation to the couch and van stuff.
Exactly. Well,
right?
so the
And
horse
low level, that too. The horse.
Are those
thing.
going to earn votes? Honestly,
No.
You don't
Like
think
I
so?
want to attack.
I don't.
I want to attack Walz's lockdown measures, the hotline. Like that stuff is insane. Back to the fear and suffering. Remind people what these people did to you just 4 years ago, and destroy that. The other stuff. I mean, it's silly.
Well, I think we could still talk about tampons. Like as a female, I want to talk about the issue. I think it's disgusting and disturbing that he wanted tampons in men's bathrooms because what they're trying to do.
Right. It says so much about his ideology.
Like when people hear, oh, he's tampon in, he put, tampons in public schools. There are some people who will say, like, that's good. There are young girls who this is a big distraction.
I mean, I would have loved that. Free tampons.
Right, right. But that's not what he did.
They're
he
trying
wasn't
to erase
in service of women. He was in service of transgender ideology.
We can talk about the tampons, but we want to talk about the issue.
Yeah, of course.
This is a guy that wants to mutilate children's private parts.
Right, like that's where we should be going. Like that's the language I want. Like you say exactly what this guy wants to do. He literally wants to mutilate your children.
He thinks pornography should be in schools
and put you away.
And I agree with that. I would say, however, for a lot of people that comes off as not true.
Right.
And this has probably happened to you, I'd imagine, where you say, you do know this guy's in favor of, insert cause, and they go, that's not true. I don't believe
that's why I'm going to use your truth serum.
But I
from the theory from earlier to get in their brain and be like, this is true.
I still think that works better than
completely agree.
These hashtags, because that's all it is, right? You're asking the question, why do we do this? Why is tampon Tim a thing? It's
what does that mean as a meme to a voter who's unsure? And a lot of people are like, if you're not sure now, then you're crazy or whatever. They have panels. They have these group focus groups all the time where there are people being like, I don't know, I don't follow the news.
Yep.
And if you go to one of these guys and he's just like a regular, he works all day, he's a carpenter, he's gonna be like, I don't really follow the news. I like what Trump says sometimes, but he's kind of mean. And then you said to him, what does tampon Tim mean to you? He's gonna go, huh? And if you said to him, are you concerned about child sex changes? He's gonna go, huh?
Right.
And if you said, have you checked your grocery bill lately? He's gonna go, it's ridiculous, it's outrageous. And then you say, who's currently in the White House? He's gonna be like, it's Biden and Kamala, and be like, I don't know, maybe Trump's a better choice. We can give that a shot, right? He'll go, yeah, probably a better choice. That is gonna earn you votes. But look, don't listen to me. I don't care. Just do whatever you guys want. And then if Trump wins or loses, what do I know?
Am I wrong in thinking some of these nicknames and memes and stuff should just happen organically? Some of it all feels, and this is true of the Harris campaign too. Some of it feels so forced that it's like, it's not having the impact they want because it's just kind of cringe.
Imagine the Trump campaign didn't fire back. So they're putting this couch theory out that JD Vance had sexual intercourse with a couch. They're coming up with all these slogans. They're attacking the MAGA movement. The weird thing, which was the same deplorable tactic, the ultra MAGA, as if that's an insult to anyone, right? What if the Trump campaign just didn't even respond? What if we just stuck to the memes that basically show someone trying to fill up their gas tank, or the videos that show you reordering your groceries? And
or she announces Waltz and he just tweets, who? Like, there are so many simple things
that
without
we could
having to do this that you could have done.
Waltz who is a great nickname.
Yeah. Honestly. Yeah.
There's better ones. I think Trump knows it better than everybody. What did he say? Lil Marco.
Timmy, I'm telling you.
He didn't say murderous Marco. He didn't say Marco, the man who marauded. No, he just said Lil. And it works. Low energy. Yeah. These are identifiers. They are very, very simple and easy to understand for the average person without knowing a lot about news. Yeah. So you want to think about that with Tim Waltz or Kamala Harris. Crooked Kamala. We're done.
Cackling Kamala.
Yeah. But crooked scares people. Yeah. Cackling is annoying. If you don't hear her talking, don't pay attention to news, you'd be like, oh. But if you call her crooked.
But these are the people that we're talking about that watch Joe Rogan's podcast again, right? To go back to that. And these are the exact people you don't want to alienate.
We just had a viral clip of Joe Rogan saying Kamala Harris was the least popular vice president in history. And then he goes like this. And in a moment with his hands, he's like, everyone just loves her and she's the greatest savior of the Democratic Party. Yeah. The response should have immediately been, wow, Joe, he's so smart. Man, you watching him, you guys are being real smart too. And then the regular people are going to be like, yeah, Joe was ragging on Kamala, that's for sure. What do you think these people are going to do? If you can't, if Joe is throwing you, like he's throwing you these layups, and then you don't take the opportunity and you swat him away, you're not going to score any baskets.
When someone asked me about Kamala a few weeks ago, I sent him a Joe Rogan clip because it was the one where he has the guest on talking about her refusing to give DNA evidence to get a free guy out of jail. I'm like, well, here's a good example of why she's evil. Yeah. You know, like there's things that he said that you could use to help build your case against her. There's a ton out there that he said. But no one, I don't know why we're not digging into that. It's because people, I think because a lot of it is Twitter's been monetized and people get more off of the hate and doing these little phrases.
I think that some of the Trump ultra diehards are really scared Trump's going to lose.
Yeah, I think they actually know that some of these polls are correct. I think they're aware this polling is real, and they're sitting there kind of scared.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe they're worried some of them might be, but I think Trump holding a press conference and addressing this specifically, talking about Kamala Harris, shows internally they have concerns about Kamala running a basement campaign and generating tons of support from celebrities, getting bumped in the polls and the betting markets, prediction markets. I think Trump's campaign is concerned about this. Like you said, Hannah Claire, they're trying to get the news cycle back and they're having a hard time.
It's hard because, you know, it's going to take something that is really disruptive. Like, I can't even think of anything, and I don't want to be too doom and gloom, but, you know, if there were suddenly a natural disaster or something that everyone, both sides, have to say, we're putting down whatever we're working on.
Don't you think that should have been the assassination?
Well, it was, and and conservatives dominated news cycles. It was definitely liberal-leaning mainstream media that was responding to it. Then we went into the RNC, and there were all these really strong images of Trump. I mean, coming out with his ear bandage. They announced JD Vance. It was just hit after hit after hit, which is like the only thing that I think ultimately tips the scales to get Joe Biden to drop out. And that was how they, you know, regain the news cycles. But they're, like you pointed out earlier, they've got Kamala's in. We've got our multi-state tour right now where they're saying nothing. And then they announce Waltz. And then we go to DNC. And then they have sort of ended their automatic hold on the news cycle. These major events that basically establish a campaign have ended for both teams. Right. And that's when it comes back to policy. I think if you can shift the narrative now back to policy, that would be even better. But there is a chance that after the DNC, it becomes much easier to see sort of how these two are leveling out against each other.
So we got this story. Let's jump to this one from SCNR. Governor Glenn Youngkin signs election security order. Directive ensures only paper ballots are used and no counting machines are internet connected. So it's not, my understanding, it's not going to be all paper ballots. Oh, no, it says, notably under Executive 35, Youngkin directs state election officials to ensure that only paper ballots are used in Virginia and are retained for 22 months after each election. Additionally, the commissioner of the Department of Elections is required to ensure there is a documented chain of custody for paper ballots and a daily reconciliation process during early voting. During the early voting period on Election Day, ballots must be reconciled against the number of voters checked into the polling location and against the number of ballots that were mailed to voters. The state is also prohibited from sending out an absentee ballot unless it has been requested by a registered voter before being mailed. Completed absentee ballots may not be counted until the last 4 digits of the voter's social security number and year of birth on the envelope are matched to the voter's record file. How much do you want to bet Virginia goes heavy red?
Gonna happen.
It's going to be like +7 red.
Probably.
What do you mean? You don't want illegals and dead people voting in elections?
Or just the ballot harvesting.
Yeah.
So with paper ballots, only these locations, Democrats, outside of whether they, I think we are seeing with the work permits a real risk that people are going to accidentally register illegal immigrants.
For sure.
But even outside of that, nursing homes. Famously, Democrats going to nursing homes and these elderly people who are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, just fill it out. James O'Keefe had the video of all this stuff. They do this. With this policy, should this succeed in the courts, because I bet Democrats are going to sue him to oblivion. But he's playing 4D chess over here. You know why? What he's doing at the executive level with the elections, Republicans challenged Democrats doing the same thing in 2020, and the court said no standing.
Right.
Let's see if the courts in Virginia say the same thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you're Republican, so you lose instantly. But that being said, only paper ballots, I'm willing to bet the whole state just red
Hope it
across the
happens
board.
I think there's a good chance.
in more places.
Yeah.
Are there other states that have a similar initiative in place right now? I'm trying to think.
Not that I've heard of, but they should be.
Come on, governors. There is
think-
time.
I don't want to speak incorrectly. I think some states are in the works of making this.
Because that would be interesting. If I would like it to be set up so that there are several states doing this, so we can really test this out. I mean, will states that have paper ballots like this see a notably different result than in years past and to states neighboring them?
Right.
Yeah. It's gonna be hard to tell too, since this election is, the last election of the United States. It's been billed, so it could be just a higher turnout than usual.
They always say that, though. This is the thing about this dramatic messaging. I just get so tired of it. Like,
No,
it's the last one. They're ending
2012 was the last
democracy.
one.
Okay.
That's when the
then
world
why
ended,
did
you're
I
saying?
vote later?
Or is that when the last
Because
election was?
Democrats didn't accept 2016 and Republicans didn't accept 2020.
Yeah.
So the last election we had was 2012.
Yeah.
And that's where people were like, oh, wow, look at that, Obama won.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
When do we get back to a place where we just agree?
I don't think that's possible.
I agree with you.
I think as people get older, the younger generations are polarized all the same. And I've said this time and time again, the only reason the country isn't completely ripped to shreds is because Gen Xers, Boomers, and Silent Generation have lower rates of polarization. Once the Silent Generation ages out, passes on, then you're going to have the next generation moving in. Polarization will become more pronounced. By the time when Gen Xers are in their 70s, millennials are going to be in their 50s and 60s, you are going to have hyper bipartisanship. Geographic country will be absolutely split and irreparably. Like you literally have people who want to sterilize and chop off kids' junk. Okay, there's no reconciling the political values between these people.
Right.
I think there are some issues. So you go.
I was just going to say, I think there's a way to have these conversations, though. I think there's a way to have these hard conversations and come to some common sense, common ground, because believe it or not, we actually would agree on most of these issues. But you have the extremists, I think, that are making the most noise.
What's hard though, I have 2 kids, a third on the way, maybe any minute now. And so I might run out of here, but we'll see. Is when
That's why I watch CBS show every night in August, so we have to see you right now.
when you meet other parents who believe in the mutilation stuff and giving your kids all these things, there's no coming together.
But
Like,
you know
don't-
where it starts? It starts with what Tim said, these young generations. It starts with Gen Zers right now, who, by the way, they are furious with what's happening. They want God. They want faith as a centerpiece.
Right.
They want to invest in the family unit once again. They want to have less fatherless households.
Right.
So it's a combination of things, all of those centerpieces, right?
So that's good for the future.
Right.
Like the immediate future with the parents now, they are raising other kids who are going to grow up to be, who knows how they're going to vote, but they're legitimately.
Immediate future, scary. What Tim was saying, when millennials are in their 50s and 60s, I think there's still hope.
Yeah.
Before we get there.
I agree.
To see how this next generation coming up behind mine is willing to have these conversations.
And I think there are some cultural shifts on issues that are more ambiguous. Like each side will say, oh, this is our issue, but people feel differently. Like, I think with crime in the U.S., there actually are lots of moderate, maybe lean left people who are starting to say, like,
I agree.
maybe the border is slightly weird. Or the one that I think of a lot is the marijuana issue, right? Like, we as a country have radically shifted our position on marijuana, both for medical use and recreationally. And part of it is because I think especially the youngest generation, but we look at it differently than older generations. Like, if you talk to younger people about it, they're like, but then why is alcohol allowed when marijuana isn't? And, this one's addictive. And, there's a bigger conversation. Not to mention that people are now starting to say, like, we should research marijuana and see what its effects are for, potential treatment. I think some of these cultural changes that are actually happening on both sides, there are some issues that stop being like, you're for this and we're against it. There are some that actually these generations have in common.
Well, you guys might disagree, but I think one of those issues is actually abortion. I might get canceled for saying this, but I have a lot of girlfriends in New York, contemporaries, peers, colleagues that are female, and they have felt for so long like we are being erased. We're not allowed to be a conservative. We don't belong to either party because of those beliefs. But when you're actually paying attention to Donald Trump's policy and how moderate he really is on abortion, a lot of my girlfriends are pro-choice, and it's really hard. It was really hard for a while to convince women that you have a space in this.
And that's where Trump loses me, is I wish he was harder on it. As someone who's gone super pro-life after a long time of pro-choice, but like I still want to vote for him.
Right.
Although it's not making it easy for me because I really disagree with that, and that is really important.
But there's a coalition of pro-choice or pro-life Democrats, right?
Yeah.
Who say, why does this have to be a plank in our central platform? Right. It's interesting because there are people who do not line up on either issue. The other one that I'm thinking about is the environment. The left is always saying the environment is our issue, but have you ever talked to a farmer? Like they have a lot at stake with the environment. I bet that they feel really strongly about it. They just don't conclude what you conclude, which is that it needs to be regulated at the federal level and certain things need to happen and that we shouldn't.
It was a Republican that gave us the national parks, the state parks, Eddie, and Nixon did EPA, which I don't agree with, but the left loves, Right, but for some reason it's always billed as like a left issue. Only the lefts are interested in the environment. They have a certain bent on how they want to handle the environment, but I don't think that's true. I think there are lots of, especially rural Americans, who care very deeply about preserving the natural beauty of this country and the natural resources.
Right. I think another one is all the bigs, right? Big tech, big pharma, big government. I think you're seeing people from both sides of the aisle asking questions.
That's why a lot of people who are disaffected left are going for RFK Jr.
Exactly.
But like, there are so many people I grew up with who are leftist or liberal, who are against big pharma, like I always was, but it stopped at COVID. Because then all of a sudden they became, we got to do all this. We love Pfizer.
I think there's still a good amount of Americans out there that are starting to question the status quo.
Oh, yeah.
They're starting to question what they've been told. And that's happening on both sides. So it's becoming less of a Republican or Democrat issue. These are just people, like human race issues now.
When you look at polling on civics, economics, independents align with Republicans 2-1. Democrats, for some reason, think the economy is good. Probably because they're watching MSNBC and they're being told everything is fine. Go back to sleep.
Or because they're Hollywood liberals and they'll always be fine.
No, but these are all general Democrats. These are people living in cities. What could possibly make them think the economy is good? I honestly don't know. Young people can't afford to live anywhere. They can't buy houses. They can't start families.
Nope.
I wonder how many have children. Like if there's
look at the fertility rates.
That's probably
there's a lot of, like we talk about the restroom thing, how that's changed. I think a lot of people who don't have children aren't really truly seeing how bad it is.
Of course
there you go. Independents with kids are going, the economy sucks right now. And liberals and Democrats who largely are having less kids are like, everything's fine.
Are we allowed to call them like white women that are cat ladies? Like, I don't know if we're allowed to say that anymore, but yeah, these single females that are living in big blue cities, of course they think everything's fine.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they?
They have no plans to get into a serious relationship or start a family or any of these core values that our country made our country great.
Well, and they don't have to do things like plan for someone else's future, right? When you have that kind of responsibility, and part of that is financial as well.
You may notice the economy sucks.
It feels extremely different. And I think sometimes, people, I think it's really common for people to adjust to inflation, right? They get used to paying more. So if you're only paying more for yourself, like, it's annoying, it's expensive, but you adjust. When you're like, no, it's really hurting us every time half of our household doesn't have an income, aka their children, this is tough, we don't like it. I think it's just a different mindset that you aren't in unless you're in it.
Because you have to feed and clothe other people
who are not paying
fully
rent.
dependent on you. Right, not paying rent. What the
It's
heck?
also just not part of their future plan, right? Like I have a lot of single friends right now, but we're all worried because that's our future plan. First of all, it's how am I going to find a man and all this sea of soy boys out there? So that's number one issue that we're worried
Good
about.
name for your book, The Sea of Soy Boys.
I could definitely write a few novels on that. And then number two, how are we eventually going to buy a home? How are we going to start a family? When was the last time an entire generation was fearful that they won't be able to buy a home? An entire generation coming out with more degrees on paper, but zero life skills and zero chance at the American dream. So it's also that they're not looking at the future, and that's why the economy collapsing is not a worry.
Do you think they were prepared for the future? I'm thinking about this because I wrote today about Alabama has this law that's going to affect where there's like 1,800 third graders who might have to repeat the year because they don't reach a certain literacy standard that just got implemented.
Classic America.
I was kind of researching, well, they're trying to do something about it, which I appreciate, you know? But one of the things I was reading about when I was writing this was that they have instituted a mandatory personal finance course for high schoolers in Alabama. And I think that's interesting, right? If you learned about how taxes work, how saving works,
Are you kidding?
what credit card
Beautiful.
debt can do to you in high school, you would probably react differently. So often I hear from my single friends or my friends who are just, married, but they don't have kids yet, like, oh, well, we'll just deal with this later. When you have kids, there's kind of no later.
Oh, my poor mother, she would be ecstatic if she knew that this is what they were teaching, because they were not teaching this when I was in high school. And I call her every time I need to do my taxes and I have all these silly math questions. And she's like, what? She's Canadian, so she just doesn't understand that the system here.
What part of Canada is she from?
Born in Montreal, raised in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
A lot of my family's still there,
My
but
family's from Newfoundland.
oh, okay. I mean, we have different issues that we don't agree on with that side of the family, but the education system here in America, no, I don't think most Americans are educated enough to understand financial planning, let alone what it actually takes to save up enough money to buy a home, buy a car, provide, right? So that's really, honestly, that's hopeful.
But then we say you're 18, you must go to college, otherwise your life will fall apart. Sign here on this line.
Biggest mistake I've made
in
so
huge
far,
amounts of debt.
Be a slave.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
To be a slave.
But we don't train that. Like, if you're not being taught basic financial literacy, why would you? No one should let you take out these loans.
I think it's by design that they don't
Of course
teach
it's
financial
all of
literacy.
this is by design. It's all meant to brainwash and distract us from what matters. But that's why I have hope right now with this young generation, right? I'm a millennial, but this Gen Z generation coming up behind me, like I was alluding to before, I think they're redefining the answer to that question, what matters?
Yeah.
And what is that? It is starting a family. It's connecting with another soul. It's spirituality. It's your health. It's escaping that 9-to-5 matrix. And this education system is also something they're starting to question, right? Everything that we've been told. So that really gives me hope.
Imagine growing up in a household where your parents are literally telling you have 12 years to live because the sun, the sky, like with I forget what that movement was called, the sunrise movement. They had their children holding a banner that said we have 12 years to live. That's a death cult. That's scaring your children. So either they're going to lean into that and then join the cult, or they're going to push back. And I do see a lot of that. I say, even in New York, where I'm from here now, but I see a lot of people in New York who are younger than me or my age, and
I'm moving here now.
it's awesome here.
It's great.
It's free here.
I saw 20
freedom's
farms.
great.
I'm in. Sign me up.
There's a lot of cows. We
Find
love
me a
them.
cowboy.
Nothing is open after 9 o'clock.
Well, yeah, you should be home with your family by
That's
the
so
Claire.
true. There's no
bedtime.
wilding for the young.
Let's jump to this next story from SCNR. We have this ActBlue changes donation procedures after Texas AG investigation. Following money laundering allegations, Democratic fundraising platform now requires credit card CVV codes. Will that put an end to the weird instances where little old ladies were donating 57 times per day? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But certainly something was going on. Now, I bring this one up because we talked about the paper ballot only scenario with the executive order in Virginia. The question is enough being done with these moves, or is it too little too late? I mean, we're what, 3 months out from the election?
This is how I look at it. If anyone out there believes that election interference or the manipulation by the left or any of this election interference is insurmountable, that's just not true. And again, what wins elections is involving your community, registering a friend, registering a family member, chasing those ballots, making sure that ballots actually make it to the ballot boxes. So I think a lot of this worry is also just a distraction and noise. I'm not sure how much we should be focusing on that.
I also think ActBlue is evil. I just like to say that during lockdowns and the riots, ActBlue was managed by Susan Rosenberg and 1,000 Currents. Susan Rosenberg is a domestic Marxist terrorist, part of the Weather Underground, who became a professor when she was pardoned on Bill Clinton's last day in office. And
Crazy how that happens to the
she
Weather Underground.
helped, because ActBlue was able to use 1,000 Currents like non-tax exempt status to get these funds. So it's a very strange relationship they had, and she's an evil person that was funding BLM, which was a lot like the Weather Underground, in my opinion. So I don't like.
I love the whisper.
but that aside, is enough being done to circumvent any kind of shadow campaign, or are Republicans going to step in it again this time?
They could very well step in it again. I keep thinking about the Time magazine.
I don't think enough's been done in general, but is it too late? I
think it's not. Look at what Glenn Youngkin's doing, right?
Right.
That is great.
That matters now. Are we going to see all the red states do this? They should. Swing states that have red legislatures should be passing this right now.
That's the thing that's tough with the left, is that they are just a monolith. For the most part, they have their issues. Obviously, BLM has problems with Kamala being installed the way she was. But for the most part, they're a monolith, and the right is not. And it's going to be tough to beat something like that.
Hence the don't make enemies of moderates.
Right.
Democrats are marching in lockstep. Registered Democrats outnumber Republicans as of 2022 by about 12 million registered voters. The Republican Party is a lot smaller. That's why when you look at the polling, you see that independents side with Republicans 2-1 on most issues. Republicans rely on independents to defeat the Democratic cult.
So when you're alienating those independents, what are we asking for here? And I think I was reminding people of all this. I'm sure a lot of us were, when Biden was collapsing. After that debate, everyone was so excited. The conservatives were on fire, right? But when you were sitting back to analyze things, you knew Democrats are way too heavily calculated. There's no way they don't have a plan here. I was reminding people of the stats, and now look, this was all heavily calculated. They had a plan all along.
Oh yeah, I think they trotted him out there knowing that he would fail.
No, I think there's infighting. I think that there are a lot of people who wanted him to step away a long time ago.
Right.
Said he promised to be a one-term president, and then he was like, just kidding, I'm running again.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't get him out. I think when he failed on the debate stage, they were like, now is our chance, pressure campaign. You'll see Nancy Pelosi deny this, right? I didn't make any calls. I didn't talk to anybody, not even Chuck Schumer. But then suddenly Joe Biden has left the election kind of at the most perfect time when they need him to most, when Trump has all of this positive press post-RNC and post-assassination attempt.
What if the October surprise was Kamala Harris announcing that for the past 18 months she had been involved in an investigation over the criminal actions of Joe Biden, and that she was unable to speak publicly about his mental state because of the investigation and the risk of compromising it, but you can now say that he is a criminal and he will be criminally charged and she is stepping in as president, and then she comes out with all these documents proving crimes? Like, what if that was the October surprise?
I would say kudos, but still sound like a prosecutor.
No, I wouldn't, because she was aware the whole time and she allowed him to be president. She didn't step up.
This is
not enough.
Well, that's why she says because of the investigation.
No, that's not enough, man.
Vivek mentioned that calling her a prosecutor makes her sound good on crime. So when people say that she was a prosecutor who kept people in jail, all you're saying is she's tough on crime.
It's funny because I'm thinking about it the way I used to think about it when I considered myself liberal in terms of prison reform, and the way she was throwing all these people in jail using the crime bill that Biden helped write in the 90s.
Do you think most people are?
No, because I'm a nerd watching the same video from the 1993 on YouTube when Biden's talking about these people and she's calling them super predators.
That clip of Tulsi taking her to task for this in 2020 over and over and over
on the debate
again.
stage.
Yeah, because I also think progressives have a long memory and they're not going to forget some of that.
But that's primary stuff.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
That destroyed her in the primary. If you go on stage and say she was locking up criminals beyond their time or whatever, they're going to be like, wow, she's a tough on crime candidate.
No, I think the weird thing about Kamala's campaign right now is that she didn't primary. So she does have all the support. Like, she doesn't need to primary and get votes. On the other hand, it does not actually mean she has complete support from the grassroots Democrats, right? She has institutional support. The media's behind her. Every congressional Democrat, every governor was like, yep, you're the gal. But the voters are not as sold on her as they would like them to be. There's enough room for like disagreement within their party, especially like I mentioned Palestine with some prosecution stuff, that I think you could honestly say if you kept talking about this, you might help independence, but also some progressives might say, oh yeah, we didn't like her the first time around.
You know, you have to remind some of these people, right? Like they forgot. But I think any voters that are convinced right now are simply just convinced because they don't like Donald Trump. How could they possibly be convinced on any of her policies when you go to her website right now and there's zero vision, zero agenda, and zero policies for how she's going to help this country?
You know what I really want to see? Just at the DNC, Kamala loses, and then it's Hillary Clinton.
How do you think?
What's Hillary Clinton's walkout song?
Does she do better? Do you think people
Hillary?
want her for the left? Nah. I think they're done with her.
Yeah, I think she would do miserably among the younger generation too.
Yeah.
So, you know, really consider how...
Well, she can't do TikTok dances.
It's been 8 years, man. I mean, we're talking about, it's been a long time. Someone who was in their early 20s, 22-year-old voter at the time of Hillary Clinton's now approaching 30 and entering their 30s, and they have family now. Their life has changed a lot from early 20s to their 30s.
So true.
Hillary Clinton's just not it. But the reason why I say that is, for one, it'd be funny.
It would be.
But also, if they do swap out Kamala, she's off the ballot in so many states that I don't think they can win.
Yeah.
Like, Trump just wins by default, basically.
They won't let that happen.
Right. So it's going to be Kamala, it's going to be Waltz, and then we're all going to go, bleh. And they're going to offer up no campaign policies.
They don't have to.
They're going to do everything they can to make sure that Trump is fighting in the mud with them instead of targeting on the issues. And we talked about this with the midterms in 2018 and 2022. It's the kitchen table issues matter the most. But if people just want negative partisanship, then you got to win a culture war. So good luck convincing people that the other side is just wrong or evil or whatever, instead of talking about the price of food.
Yeah, I think they should start telling conservatives, anyone who ends up on like CNN or does any kind of mainstream thing, should push home the point that Kamala Harris does not respect you enough to give you a platform. Like, she does not care about you, and that's crazy.
The crazier part to me is look at Donald Trump going on all of these networks, going against the media, holding press conferences, inviting the mainstream media to come. The same media that is propping Kamala up is the one that she's running away from. I mean, that should scare every American.
When she did that, she gave this comment to reporters, like, when are we going to get an interview? And she was like, oh yeah, well, we're going to set up one by the end of August. Ma'am,
circle back.
Any reporter would come from the ends of the earth to interview and have an exclusive sit down with you. Like, you could have one tomorrow, but you don't respect your voters enough to give them one, or your team knows that you can't handle it.
Do you think she's like training for the interview?
Hasn't she been a public figure for long enough? Like, if she can't handle it now, why is she running for president?
Well, apparently Americans also forgot that with the whole, on day one of my administration, sweetheart, you've been part of this White House.
Well, the oppressive white man is holding her back, as you know.
Can you guys, I mean...
That's the comment that she's making there.
Yeah,
like, she is saying, oh, I'm not allowed to do stuff because Joe Biden's in my way, as all, patriarchal oppressors are apt to do. It's crazy.
This is also the party that complains about how much they hate old white milquetoast men. And so let's see. Now she just picked a left communist old white milquetoast man as her. I mean, make sense.
That stuff supersedes the skin color.
Have you seen the leftist I shouldn't say the liberal meme tweets about Waltz? Heavens help us. I don't even want to repeat some of them.
Oh, let's hear them.
Like, no, I
you have to reference something.
Because one was like, basically a woman was explaining what it would be like to be in bed with J.D. Vance or Tim Walz.
Oh, I saw that.
Clint Russell posted this. I'm upset with you, Clint, for making me read that.
Then there was one where it's like, he's the dad you lost to Fox News, come back, or whatever, or something like this. Like, this is what your father would have been if not for Fox News. There's one where...
so many daddy issues.
There's one where it's a bunch of women and girls are hugging him, and he's smiling, and it's like, he could save us or something. It's just like the weirdest stuff, man.
Social media.
But it's daddy issues.
It's daddy issues.
Wow.
Like, isn't that weird? This is the thing that I don't get, why they have to make it so it's like, Kamala is mom. I mean, I know her stepkids call her Mamala, but like, Kamala is our mom.
Mamala.
And Waltz is our dad or uncle, and we're desperate for family and connection. And even though they'll never know who we are, we're going to somehow put them on this weird pedestal.
These are the same voters that we were talking about that have no plans to start their own family.
Well, and also on top of that, the government, that side wants the government to be your parent.
Yeah.
So they're the surrogates.
Right.
What is the Kamala thing?
What?
I thought that was just
Oh,
like
it's
a
like-
misspelling.
I think that's just troll. No,
But then
no, it's turned into a whole thing. The campaign, Stephen Chong, our friend, is like just going with it. I think it's just funny.
I think it was a mistype, but I saw this one meme with like Barron behind him was like, "Yes, father, exactly like that," and Trump was like, "Yes, well done, Barron." Like they're like messing with Kamala in a way
Is
that's
the
going to
is
get
the
under her
goal
skin.
to just be like, you know, you've never heard of this band I like? We're too cool. Like, you know, I listen to, you know, Space Avenger 53. You've never heard of them. They're an indie band. Is that the strategy against
No, I think the Kamala strategy is
I think it's more like Kofefi.
it's annoying people for some reason. Like if you look at Stephen Chung's Twitter, these people are getting so annoyed for some reason. Like, what does this mean? Why are you calling her that?
Does it get
So
votes?
Of course not. But most of these strategies right now, most of these hashtags are not getting votes.
And if some of it is just to start turning the narrative, right? Like if you have something that's getting under their skin,
Right.
rather than
Like-
being like,
like
"No,
the-
you're
the
weird,"
weird
or
thing.
whatever
Right,
it was.
right.
Like it is kind of funny to
Drew
see. us
Barrymore
doing
said
it.
it on her show. Is that what it is? Oh, they're repeating something that she had said. Kamala.
But doesn't she have a lisp? Are we not supposed to make fun of her?
I don't know. I'm just like.
Nothing's off the table, Hannah.
The heck watches Drew Barrymore?
I am not interested in having a meme flame war on X for the election.
We can have the meme war after November 5th. Like,
If,
we can do
look,
that.
if Republicans and Democrats want to engage in a he's weird, no, you're weird, no, you drink horse, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, I'll be over there, and I'm not gonna be involved in that.
They're trying to recapture the meme war of 2015
Yeah.
and what that did, but it's not there right now. They're not hitting that same wave that they were hitting in 2015, 2016.
That's true, yeah.
Because it was amazing then. It was hilarious. But
Meme
everyone
magic.
now, it was meme magic.
Have you ever seen the Meme Magic documentary?
No.
Talking about how weird 2016 was, like Keck.
Right.
You know about the Keck,
Yeah.
the god. And so for those that don't know, Keck is a god, a frog god. And then in World of Warcraft, when you have two factions, the Alliance and the Horde, and you're not supposed to be able to communicate with each other because it's a PvP server. And so if you on one side, I think the Horde is approaching you and they speak Orcish or whatever, if you type LOL, the Alliance player sees Keck, K-E-K. So a lot of young people then online started saying Keck instead of LOL. And then people started to, like, eventually someone found out Keck was an Egyptian god, it was a frog. Then there was the Pepe frog. Then there was that song Chatelet where the record has a green frog on it and it's like frog magic or something. There's a documentary talking about it, all these weird memes that happened. One was like, Trump is going to win, and it was like 10 number 7s in the identifier on 4chan. So something like that. It was like just weird stuff, like something, the Large Hadron Collider, who knows?
Now I'm
Yeah.
sold.
I
But
was gonna say, do you know about this stuff?
well, that went off in 2008.
You got, this is 2016.
I know. I'm saying the Large Hadron Collider went
They
off.
fired up in 2016? Right
Oh yeah,
before
yeah. 2012, I think 2016.
You gotta watch that
Just recently.
documentary.
I will.
Because it's like, it actually will trip you out.
But what's happening now is them trying to do it all again, and it's not working.
It's forced memes.
The right and the left are trying to do it, and it's not interesting, honestly,
Yeah.
like it used to be. It used to be.
Do you think
hilarious.
it's not interesting because of the issues at hand right now?
No, because it's always the end of the world. Every election's the end of the world. It's just that they're not funny. A lot of them are not funny,
Yeah.
and they're not sticking, and they're not rooted in any real truth, like the couch stuff,
Yeah.
the horse stuff. You know,
forced.
humor is really
There's
good.
no idea being conveyed. Memes are supposed to condense an idea into a small package that you can then deliver the information very easily.
Right.
But right now, we're not getting anything that does that. Saying like weird doesn't do anything. And that was, of course, Democrats. They always have failed to make longstanding memes. But Kamabla doesn't represent any kind of cultural idea. That's why people are trying to come up with names for Waltz, because the name is supposed to install in your mind an idea about him every time you hear it.
Right.
And we're not getting that.
I just keep thinking it means they're going to waltz right into the White House. I'm
Yeah.
like, dang.
Don't say that.
I know, but that's why I keep hearing that in my head because of the Time article that I also think about all the time.
Shadow campaign.
Yeah. Like if they were doing that back then, God knows what they've been doing.
I think it's
since.
funny that they basically wrote a whole article like admitting how they did all this stuff. Like the AFL-CIO teamed up with other corporate leaders and activists, and then
Right. They
That
literally
when you say you did this, they're like, "How could you say that about us?"
the article literally says Trump said there was a conspirance against him.
No.
Technically, he was right.
it says there was the article from Time Magazine says there was a conspiracy unfolding.
Literally spell it out.
Yeah,
And it was right after the election, right? It was maybe
it was
Yeah.
after the
That
inauguration. It was
winter?
February 2021. Yep.
unbelievable.
As soon as Joe Biden was in, they were like, yep,
Tell them.
yep, we did it all.
Oh yeah,
Rub
by
their
the way.
faces
All
in
that
it.
stuff.
Rub their faces in it. And then we're going to go and do even worse.
But
the
we'll
next time.
still cancel and
memes-
censor you for talking about it.
I wonder if the reason the memes aren't there is because there's a lot of people who are meme smiths who have bowed out.
Or gone to jail.
Yeah, but no, the ones that I'm referring to have bowed out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of comedy personalities that were making memes because it was fun and funny, and then they ended up now they're completely uninvolved.
I think it's because we took the fun out of everything, and we definitely took the fun out of memes. And
I think the left realized that these young guys on YouTube and X who are posting funny things were not diehard Trump supporters, but were mocking the left, and that's what was really driving a lot of this. So they got targeted, bowed out, and now all that's left is like, I don't know, cat turd.
It's like Facebook humor.
But it's missing the younger generation. It's missing millennials, Gen X, and Gen Z.
Yeah.
It's very boomer oriented, and no disrespect to boomers. It's just it's not associating properly with the younger generation. I remember during like the meme wars in 2016, it was all very millennial. It was very millennial male, and I know a lot of these guys have completely bowed out. I'll mention one thing. Chris Rogan, for instance, had that YouTube video. He had a bunch of songs on YouTube mocking leftism, intersectionality, white privilege. He deleted Punch a Nazi. It was a song, a parody of Paparazzi by Lady Gaga, mocking the left for calling everybody a white supremacist and Nazi. He deleted it because he got attacked from the left, and he said, okay, I'm out. He didn't want to be involved anymore. And so it's people like him, a lot of the culture warriors in the 2010s have completely jumped ship.
agreed. I think that the cancel culture and the fear that they ignited in this country is it's scary. I mean, for conservatives, there was a time where it felt like you were taking away someone's livelihood, and that's why it's up to the frat brothers to save this country.
That's another interesting thing too. Like, you had Sargon of Akkad, who of course is still active with Lotus Eaters, but it's fairly different. It's become adult. It's become academic. Carl used to be a bit more crass, as it were, and now it's very above board and academic, and I respect it. But there were a lot of people who are no longer aligned. You know, at the time, you had people like, I could pull up maybe one of these old images showing everybody at VidCon or something. The anti-woke, the anti-leftist YouTube community, a lot of these people were making the videos and the memes that were getting a lot of attention. It could actually be much more simple than all of this. YouTube censored it all. They figured out that these networks existed, and then they just chopped them up and made sure that these things could not get traffic anymore. And now it's substantially harder for Trump to have these meme smiths succeed in influencing, people in their mid to late 20s.
Maybe it's also because we're in such a humorless environment. Like what they're doing to your tweet today. Like there's just no humor. There is. We have humor.
The Democrats don't know what jokes are. That's obvious.
But so does the
left
right
has
too.
meme.
The right
That's
the right has a problem with humor as well.
They do. But when Joe Rogan made the joke where he was like, before COVID, I thought vaccines were the greatest invention ever. Now I think the moon landing is fake. And they were like, how dare you? And then Joe was like, it's a comedy special. Like, it's intentionally exaggerated to be humorous. They don't understand this.
Can't do that. You
Please
can't
bring
do it.
comedy back. Yeah.
I think it's still there. Like Kill Tony is huge, but there's, it's not everyone on the left like who you would think would like it.
Where does Kill Tony film?
It's at the mothership.
That's right. It's at who owns the mothership?
Yeah.
Rogan.
Yeah.
Oh, he does.
Interesting.
And so it's just so shocking to me that I'm like, guys, don't rag on the guy who is connecting with regular people through comedy. Comedy is what helped Trump in 2016. The meme wars, they were fun and funny, and everyone was laughing and having a good time.
I will say though,
We're not allowed to have a good time or
no
fun.
Fun's
No
not allowed.
fun at all.
Joe, how dare you?
I should specify that there's a lot of humorlessness within the political world on both the right and left, because
Yeah.
you also look at Kill Tony and they're doing numbers, right?
doing numbers, man.
Like they get 150, they do once a week, right? 150,000 concurrent viewers. That's epic. And he's filming Madison Square Garden right now.
Yes, right.
So there is obviously appetite for humor because of how humorlessness.
Look, man, it
everything else
really
is.
comes down to this. You've got two questions, and I do think the first segment on this, the big story of the day with Joe Rogan and RFK, does exemplify a lot of this, especially with the meme wars. Is the left is trying to say, I'd rather have a beer with Tim Walz than J.D. Vance. There's some fake meme. It's like, so fake. This guy's like, my staunch Republican neighbor says, when I ask him about it, he says, well, Walt seems like a kind of guy you want to have a beer with, and
Right.
J.D. Vance doesn't. It's like, shut up. Because they say the same thing about Kamala Harris. Isn't she someone you would want to have a glass of wine with? No.
Absolutely
None of
not.
them.
She
You know who I'd like to hang out with? I hung out with David Lucas.
Yeah.
That guy's fun to hang out with. He's funny, and you're laughing the whole time. Joe Rogan's funny. You're laughing the whole time. Dave Smith is funny. You're having a good time. People want to have fun.
Yeah.
Find the people who are having fun. Become friends with them. Ask them for help so that everyone can laugh and have a good time. That's where the hangout's going to happen. Kill Tony is killing it.
Yep.
And they had Tucker Carlson on.
That's right.
And it's at the Comedy Mothership. This is your open door to regular people who just want to laugh. And that's a big boost that Trump got in 2016, and he needs now.
Yeah.
Well, I think the truth is conservatives are fun. The conservatives are way more fun than uptight liberals that wake up angry. They don't even know why they're angry. But we have to play into that. We have to, and we're living in a culture now, in a society where people are so afraid to offend people. Bring back bullying. I say this all the time. We should be making fun of ourselves. Conservatives should be making fun of their own party.
That's why I like Kill Tony. That's why I like hanging out with David Lucas. He came on the show. He roasted us.
Yeah.
I like that.
It was great.
I love it.
Do you
Oh,
think some
dude,
of it is-
he's amazing. We were hanging out with him. He did a comedy show here, and it was funny because some of the crew here, they're like, dude, the Kill Tony guys are going to be here. And I was like, who? And they're like, David Lucas. And I was like, oh, yeah, we know him. He's been on the show. And then we went and hung out with him. And I'm like, he's awesome. He's hilarious. And he's smart. And he's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
He's great.
It was funny because we were hanging out backstage, and then they're doing comedy the whole night. But then when we go back to the green room, he's explaining, like, let me tell you about politics. And then he just goes off, super smart, talking about policy and everything. And it was fun and funny. And his retorts, like, that is what get you there.
Yep.
When you have when you have people like that are on Kill Tony, I don't is he regular on Kill Tony?
Yeah. Not as much as he
hilarious.
used to be, but yeah, he's
Right.
still on a lot.
And he's doing these comedy shows that they're the packed house at the casino down the street.
Yep.
This is a guy who's advocating on behalf of Trump, complaining about Democrats. You got to have fun with it.
And remember, he was on IRL
Yep.
about a week or so after
Because he was making fun of George
his Floyd joke, which was great. And he felt the flame from the crazy people.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about it.
And then he got ragged on by Trump supporters because he walked it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But then, like, most of the moderate, so there's moderates who have aligned with the right, exactly as Elon described. It was the Colin Wright meme, where we were kind of liberal leftists, and then the left went nuts, and now we've aligned with the right. That's why it's like Ben Shapiro and I will probably disagree on most things, but then we vote for the same stuff because we agree that we like America and America's good. And that shift, those moderates and those comedians need to stay aligned. When they started ragging on David Lucas over this, and then he said something to the family like he wasn't, it was kind of an apology. I don't know. My attitude was like, I don't care, dude. I don't care if people are mad, like, don't apologize. And I was like, no. David Lucas is a funny guy. He's great.
Yeah.
Like, look, if he wants to get heat off his back, keep making the jokes. You got my support.
Yep.
Do you think any of it is that people are looking for the fight instead of looking for the fun? Like, people are tense to jump down each other's throats right now?
I think monetizing Twitter did that a
Yeah.
lot.
You think
Because of the
that's
device.
monetizing
Yeah.
Twitter?
It was there before,
Yeah.
but monetizing Twitter.
I was wondering if it's because it's an election cycle.
But this
People are-
is the stupidest thing. It's like, then the deflection people have when I criticize them is, he's just trying to get clicks. I'm like, dude, I posted the polls showing Kamala's winning, saying, guys, she's winning. We need to win. You have to stop this. They go, you're just trying to get clicks. Sure, whatever. I don't care.
Okay, so then lose.
Yeah, this is the crazy thing. When I'm like, here's the polls, here's the prediction markets, Trump is losing in all these metrics. They're like, you're just trying to get clicks. And I'm like, then if you genuinely think Trump is already winning, then what more must be done? Like, I don't know what your argument is. I'm showing you these things saying, guys, we have to go 10 times as hard because Kamala's coming up in the polls. Even if the polls are wrong, Trump should still be winning.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have friends in California who are Trump fans, but they're seeing a huge surge for Kamala. Like, a lot of excitement, people wearing shirts. There's merch.
Yeah.
Not so surprising because it's California, and California also has lots of red parts. But I haven't seen that. But we're also in West Virginia.
Yeah, but it's Kamala's brat. You know what I mean?
That's Brat.
Yeah, she's
she
Brat.
is so Brat.
And Trump is Chad. That's what I think Daily Wire posted. Was it Daily Wire?
I don't know if I
They
saw
said
it.
Kamala. It's like Kamala Brett, and then it switches to Trump, and then it turns red. And it says Chad, and then it plays like deep bass, and it's like showing Trump, and like the screen's flashing.
I will
Those are good
take
memes.
a chatty daddy any day. Okay, over Brat Girl Summer. So
Both those make me feel uncomfortable.
on the record, I want that on the record.
I think maybe a big component of it is even with Trump winning in 2016, it wasn't like a massive margin. I think it was like 40,000 votes or something.
Yeah.
And it was because people hated Hillary Clinton. I always mix their names up for you because
Same.
Something
Right.
about them.
Same, but
I
different.
got to tell you, If you ask me what I would rather go to, a Trump rally or kill Tony, no question.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Trump. I'm voting for Trump. I want him to win. I think he's the better candidate. I think he's the greatest president of my lifetime. I want to hang out at a Kill Tony show. I want to I went and saw Joe Rogan in Philadelphia like 6 years ago, and I was laughing so hard, I thought I was going to injure myself. It's so good. One of his best jokes, I don't know, it's been a long time, was he was just talking about how cats look out the window and they do that gibbering thing. And it was just like, I can't remember the full bit, but it was hilarious. And I'm like, this is a night to remember. You're having a good time. You're laughing. We want to capture that energy and use it to convince people to vote for what will make this country better.
This is why I think they went after comedians early on in this whole cancel campaign. Of
course.
Because the comedians subvert their narrative so well.
Always.
That's why they went after Louis, you know, anyone who was funny. Even Jerry Seinfeld, who's like a saltine compared to the comedians that I like. Sorry to cut you off.
I was just going to say, I do feel that there is that energy at a lot of these Trump rallies. Maybe not being used with humor, but it's the four-letter word hope that
Trump's funny.
Yeah, he's a comedian.
He's hilarious, but most people do leave these rallies saying this with the same sentiment. This was a night to remember.
Yeah,
they feel like they're walking out with some hope, a vision for this country, and it's a safe space to express your love for America. So
what Trump does really well is this is exactly it. His rallies. So when I got invited to the White House, I went with Bill Ottman for the Social Media Summit. And I thought it was going to be like a round table with maybe like 30 people and we're hanging out and Trump's going to be asking questions. No, it was Trump standing at a podium with like 100, 200 people in a room, and Trump did stand up for an hour.
Let's go.
The whole crowd of people who already like the guy are laughing their ass off the whole time. He is quick-witted. He is hilarious.
Yeah.
I think he needs to get some comedians on stage with him, and they should legit do a comedy set with like two opening acts and then Trump.
Trump should go on Kill Tony. Like,
yes,
like amazing.
That would be sick.
Because he could dish it, you know, just like those guys. He obviously, look at all the things we've heard about pencil neck and low energy and all these people.
Dude, Trump on Kill Tony.
Trump is Kill Tony. I mean, people should watch the Shane Gillis as Trump because that's amazing. But
so good.
Trump, I bet that'll happen.
Trump would annihilate.
And the crowd would love it.
Oh yeah,
it would love it.
It'd be dude, remember when he posted that thing about Diet Coke? What did he write?
Oh, yeah.
What was that? I got to pull that
That's
one
a
up.
Great one.
Remember the Bill Barr tweet where he's like, "I called him fat and lethargic,"
or the protruding nipples quote.
Oh God.
For Barney.
I saw him speak at the New York Young Republicans Gala, and he said something like, Ginger Gates sang the national anthem, and he was like, "She's very beautiful. Not that I notice beautiful women."
Yes.
Like, what?
He's not allowed. Here we go. Here's a tweet from 20. I have never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke.
Bring this back.
Yeah. Well,
Look at this one. Wait. The Coca-Cola company is not hat with me. That's okay. I'll still keep drinking that garbage.
He still has
good.
it. He still has it because when we were at the Libertarian Convention, that dude walked out to half a crowd booing him.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
ate
I'm
those boos. And he said, well, if you want to win, vote for once, vote for me. Like,
I'm asking for your nomination at their
still
own.
got it. You know, he is a
And
comedian.
then he started talking in third person. Like,
Yeah.
it's so
That was great.
You're
Sorry to
right. He
libertarians.
totally still has it. I think they're trying to make him a politician. Not that he'll ever be that.
Yeah.
But with good old, authentic, raw, real Trump is what.
That's all we need. Like, no handlers, no one telling him, no focus groups. Just Trump.
I got to read this from April. Wow, former AG Bill Barr, who let a lot of great people down by not investigating voter fraud in our country, has just endorsed me for president despite the fact that I called him weak, slow-moving, lethargic, gutless, and lazy. Based on the fact that I greatly appreciate his wholehearted endorsement, I am removing the word lethargic from my statement. Thank you, Bill. MAGA 2020.
Brilliant.
MAGA, baby.
something about
Brilliant.
citing New York Post.
Yeah.
Like, what? There's no hyperlink
The
there.
whole thing's
Dude,
beautiful.
this is one of the greatest roasts that has ever been written. No question. I am removing lethargic from my... It's like the dude endorsed you and you just rip him to shreds.
That's amazing.
It's funny. And what does it really mean? Like, it's just a roast. Roast is
Right.
funny. It doesn't change politics.
Right.
It's just Trump having fun and being funny. And we all laughed our asses off when he posted that.
I also
He's got to get on Twitter and start doing this stuff
He
again.
will.
well,
I
Monday
like
night.
that one in particular because, like, whenever people turn around and they're like, actually, I'm endorsing this person I've been very publicly fighting with, like, at least he's being honest. There's some tension still there.
Right.
But he's going to forgive Bill a little bit.
I love it. I have never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke.
That's a brilliant...
I
you
want
could
all
open
of
up
this on
stand-up with that.
t-shirts.
That's
Yeah.
stand-up.
I know. That's what he does. Imagine he walked down and he just said that. Everyone busts out laughing right away. It's
One
just...
powerful sentence.
It's funny because it's true. You know, it's like,
Right.
that is, you know.
That's what I'm saying. Like the memes aren't rooted in anything funny, deeper, you know?
Diet Coke.
That's just true.
Yeah, dude. The Bill Barr one. He's got so many that are so good.
You think he'll be back after the Elon space? If that's what he's doing on Monday?
I think so.
Back on X?
Oh, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's why. I hope so, because we need him on X. The Truth Social is okay. There are accounts that repost his Truth posts.
Yeah.
I think he's contractually obligated to be on Truth, though, is the issue. Because the stocks, if he goes on X, the DJT stock drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his campaign goes up and he regains the news cycle.
He wins
They'll
the
write
presidency.
about, you know.
People are
I think
always
so.
going to seek out what he's saying anyways. Like, I don't totally get, and I am not the most avid X user, I'll admit it, but, you know, I don't totally get what he achieves by directly posting to X.
There's
Everything
something
he
about the
says-
algorithm lately, though. That
Everything
that.
he says ends up there. Everyone wants to know what
But-
Trump is saying. People monitor him constantly. Like, are we expecting him to do what Elon Musk does, where he like responds in emojis to people?
I think there's a feeling of hearing from him directly on the largest
Agreed.
platform. The same way, because when Alex Jones was gone, Alex Jones was still on Twitter. You know, like people were reposting it. But when it's coming from him directly, I think it just has more impact. And it's like the inverse of that is Joe Biden's interns writing, and there's like it's just flat. You know, there's nothing to it. I agree with you because it's still he's there, but there's gonna be something to having him on in the public square again, the digital public square, in real time that I think will have a bigger impact.
and I think knowing that it's him behind the phone, right?
Hopefully,
Like
you'll
writing-
know if it's not.
Right. But I think we are expecting him to do what Elon Musk is doing, which, by the way, look how many people love that. Responding to your average American, your forgotten American, making a joke, reposting a layperson's X post. I think we're expecting Donald Trump to do that, and people will love
It could also
that.
go against him too, because he could just be bad at Twitter and have to, you know, learn his way back to being good at Twitter.
But what's being bad at Twitter, right?
I don't know, like cat turd. You know, like being competing in the MAGA Olympics rather than just being funny.
No, I think Edward's really good at Twitter. That's why he's got millions
I
of
guess
followers.
our definitions of good are different. Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying it's targeting, it's hitting one generation, and Trump really needs that, like, I just kill Tony kind of energy.
Yeah.
But like comedy, fun,
What
funny.
you're pulling up are tweets that last forever, have a legacy, and what Cat Herd's doing are just immediate shotgun blasts that may or may not be funny, but there's no longevity to it. I can't believe I'm saying
It
that
works
on
for
Twitter.
boomers. You know,
It does work for boomers. That's true. That's
And
why
I-
Facebook does well.
I just think Cat Turd does a really good job for Trump, except when he starts attacking moderates.
Right.
Because it's like don't burn the bridges to your allies.
Yeah.
You want to offer sweet candy.
I agree.
To the
To
moderates.
me, I just see
Come
them
this
all.
way.
To
We
me,
have
they're just the same
symphony
as-
cookies and cream.
It's the Krasensteins, but the different political leaning.
So the Krasensteins, you got this island in the middle, right? And then there's the Trump side, and then you got the liberal side. The liberals are lying and claiming that they've got nothing but Brussels sprouts. And some people like Brussels sprouts, sure. They're going to go the other way. In reality, you have people on the right offering wholesome, healthy food, candy, and dessert, saying, no. And if you go to the Democrat side, they're lying to you, they're tricking you. Yeah. Donald Trump didn't call Nazis very fine people. That's a lie. Yeah. Donald Trump didn't say there's going to be a physical bloodbath when he loses. That's a lie. Donald Trump did not say to inject yourself with bleach. That's a lie. But that's all they have. Come over here and we'll give you all the things you want. Right. The last thing we need to do is scream at people who we need to convince to support us.
Right. Yeah. Stop.
But anyway, without rehashing that, I think, Cat Turd it does really well on Twitter.
That's not to say that Trump should pick up Cat Turd's tactic. It really works for him. But
he truthed at Joe Rogan. Why, they shouldn't have done that.
No.
I think they're mad because Joe won't have him on the show. But Joe's not going to have Kamala on the show either.
I think they should all go on that show. It'd be great to see a long form conversation with all of them.
I mean,
Can
how excited are you for the
imagine
debate?
Kamala Harris on Kill Tony?
Kill Tony, no.
Here's actually something I think matters a lot. I think Joe wants away from politics.
Yeah, and he's stated that. I think that was even in his rebuttal today.
And I think that's I honestly think when Joe was the number one on all platforms across the board, my personal opinion, and this is not from anything he said to me, is that he probably was like, I don't want to be the biggest podcast in the world. The money's nice, but it's like Joe goes on his show and says, yo, I had Wheaties for breakfast. And then everyone writes a news article. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you really, really want something like that. People might think they want that. You don't want that.
Nope.
It must get boring too. Like, he is ultimately a very curious and creative person, and he does get the opportunity to talk to all kinds of people, which is cool. But I'm sure a lot of his life is pretty regimented to put out the volume of work.
I think it gets lonely.
Well, he's a comedian. He's got a family, and he launched Comedy Mothership, and he just happened to end up in this weird journalistic position where he was like saying he's not a journalist, and everyone's like, no, Joe, you are, because you're interviewing these important people. And he's like, I just want to talk to people I think are interesting.
Yeah.
So I think he doesn't want to have that. You know what I mean? I think you can't be bigger than Joe Rogan. He doesn't need to.
Right.
He did a comedy special on Netflix. He's got it.
Yeah.
Having the show draw a bunch of scrutiny and get attacks from the political world, I don't think he wants that. And that's why it's a delicate approach. But this goes to the point of, I do think when you look at the meme wars of 2016, it's 8 years ago now. A lot of the energy that brought the comedy to the Trump side, to the right, to the anti-left, and the anti-left really did result in a lot of votes for Trump, it's gone. Mm-hmm. A lot of these people just don't care to be involved in this stuff.
So is it too late to bring it back?
In order to do it, you have to create an environment of fun and funny. Mm-hmm. And so...
Which the conservatives are completely capable of doing.
I wonder if the issue may just be that, like, so we're talking 8 years ago, so people in their late 20s are now in their mid 30s, and they're like, I got kids, I'm not going to go on Twitter. I'm not... Like, the people who are posting the memes, I don't know if you guys ever saw the Clown World video where the Pepe is like, all the left memes and the Wojaks are screaming and they're laughing, and the clown guy, it's playing the Yoshi music. These guys who made that stuff are probably like, look, man, I just had my second kid. I got to go to work. I'm coming back. I am not going to be on the computer making edits about Donald Trump and frogs. And without that energy, a lot of that fun and excitement isn't there anymore. And Gen Z is doing other things on TikTok.
Yeah.
But social media aside, what about in-person events and at these rallies? Some of these rallies have such potential to feel like an actual party. And everyone knows conservatives are more fun. Look at some of these icons that we have that are coming out and supporting Trump. It doesn't have to be on social media. I think that's also the problem, right? In this highly curated world, some of us are going for clickbait, for the next trend, for the next hashtag. Mm-hmm. And that's how it also becomes so divisive. Like, oh, I'm going to beat you in this shimmy dance or this twerking contest.
Yeah, Trump regaining the culture like he did in the 90s when rap would reference him all the time in a positive way.
Yeah.
That I think is going to happen.
Boom.
Like we were talking earlier about Lil Pump and.
Oh yeah, you guys have a whole like set list concert ready to go.
I mean,
it's happening.
Kodak Black, Lil Wayne,
Waka Flocka.
Flocka. There are a lot of people with a lot of influence in like rap culture or rock culture. We have Kid Rock. Aaron Lewis from Stain. I saw him wearing a MAGA hat years back. I don't know where he's at these days.
And then the country stars.
And then his country. Having the culture is where it's going to be. So the left still has it, though, because I used to like Justin Vernon way back when, before he got so upset with Kanye for wearing the red hat. And he's the guy who's doing the Kamala Harris rally the other day that was singing that song everyone hated, his rendition of it.
Well, what was that voice?
That's just his voice, though. Like, it wasn't surprising to me. That's just how he's always sounded. It's like a weird, folksy, sad dude from Wisconsin.
See, there's nothing fun about that.
See, I like it, but he's not as relevant, I think, today as people like Pump are. I think. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of the rap world, Sway Lee is another person who are like Sway Lee is so anti-Kamala. It's amazing. I think that culture could help bring back Trump.
Yeah,
hopefully.
100%. And that's what I'm saying. Aside from social media, these are the ways that we can
real life.
Engage. Right.
Outside. And social media matters, though, not to put it down, but the rallies, the things that people are going to, people feeling comfortable to say those things out loud. Like, that's what Lil Pump's been saying on Twitter lately, is like, I'm not afraid to just be myself anymore. I'm like, when have you ever been afraid? But okay.
Do you wonder what he did to like hold back?
Yeah.
Like, what
Very
did you
curious.
not say?
Very
But
curious.
it is the in-person stuff, especially Tim's talking about the young generations, right? Mm-hmm. What is happening to the young generations right now? Well, there is a sense of loss of connectivity.
Yeah.
There is a sense of hopelessness that's perpetuated by the lamestream media. And so when you're doing in-person stuff, you're actually connecting.
Yeah.
You're feeling the energy in the room. And there's nothing that can replace that.
Yeah.
No hashtag or trend on social
It's almost like lockdowns were on purpose to accelerate isolation.
The virtual DNC from 2020, and now we have this virtual roll call for Kamala. Do you wonder if they had held an in-person roll call for Kamala, if there'd be some electors being like, I don't want to do this.
For sure.
For virtual, they're all like, I don't know. I guess this is what we're doing.
I would pay to see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of people post-COVID with isolation. destroyed a lot of people spiritually.
Yeah.
But it also, on the flip side, help people with religion.
Some people were really ignited by it. Like we are changing our lives. We're making decisions we don't like living this way.
It was both, and it was probably breaking down with like urban places versus rural or suburbs.
For sure.
And also with parents and like we were saying earlier, people with no kids. But a lot of people were like, we can't let the government parent us into oblivion. We can't let them take our, the supermarkets and our ability to travel or go to the restaurants, all that away. So they moved. That's why we have such geographical moving around. People leaving the West. I was going to say California, or people leaving New York, like I did, going to other places. And I remember moving down here. I remember the realtor I was talking to was like, "Oh no, these guys got a New York license plate." I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. I want to keep this place.
We adopt the culture.
I want to make this place more conservative than it is now. Trust me, I'm fleeing hellhole.
I'm running away.
Big time.
Well, let's go to Super Chats. If you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, click join us, become a member, and support our work directly. But for now, we will read your Super Chats. Long Wing D-Train says, please, Tim, look into having inspiring philosophy on with Spoonman and a staunch atheist. IP is a well-read Christian. The dialogue would be very beneficial. Very cool. Also, people were saying they wanted us to get Skillet, the band, on. And I recently was connected thanks to Rick over at Adelaide Way. Shout out to Adelaide Way.
Sick.
And I don't know if we'll ever be able to make something happen, but really cool. I mean, Skillet's huge.
Yeah.
They just played Charlestown not that long ago, and we were there right when they were leaving.
Really?
And I had no idea. Well, because it was a Friday night, I think. Show wraps, we go to the casino, and everyone's there with the Skillet shirts on and everything. And I was like, oh, look at that.
Awesome.
And it's like, it's too bad people didn't shout it out sooner, and then we would have connected. And
Right.
But it'd be really cool to have them on. Apparently, they're very proud and outspoken, so that's cool. All right, let's grab some more. I'm not your buddy guy says, riddle me this. How does one coexist with people who genuinely believe your existence is preventing them from achieving utopia? You don't. That's a challenge, isn't it? No easy answers. No easy answers. All right. Kalishnikov says Trump had 3 major wins that legitimized him in the eyes of many. The debate with Biden, the assassination attempt, and his RNC speech. Trump camp has turned all that momentum into attack Joe Rogan, apocalyptically disasterful. I got to tell you, that's a great point. I don't know that it's completely diminished all of that energy, but that's what some of the pollsters are saying. Nate Silver had tweeted that he can really see a major bump since Kamala Harris began to run. Yeah. And I think part of the reason that they swapped out Joe Biden, it's obvious. Nobody liked him. Nobody wanted him. Nobody cared about him. And Kamala is new energy for a cult. They don't care who it is. They just don't want old man Biden. Now they're energized again. So Trump's got to be really careful about how he handles this. To go from the RNC speech to that press conference, I think is a mistake. But he does need to capture the news cycle again. I just think he's got to go about it. It's probably stressful. It's probably the hardest decision, and I can't give any good answers. I can only say that RNC speech was something else. That was amazing.
I loved it.
He needs to capture that energy, and that's his rebound. And right now, that's the move to make. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Dan, you should troll Cat Turd by tweeting you're now voting RFK Jr. It's not like anyone will take you serious, and RFK Jr. def won't quote tweet you, thanking you for your endorsement, right?
Oops.
Right? And it was such a passive thing for me too, because we were setting up the Culture War show, and I'm like walking in the room looking at my thing and like just seeing people being like, screw you, blah blah blah, like go vote for Bernie Sanders. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna vote for RFK. Put it down. And then I'm like, anyway, the show. And then I checked it like a little while later, and RFK Jr.'s like, thank you, Tim, I really support it. I was like, crap.
People at Newsweek are like, meh.
Yep.
I think this kind of goes back to how we're saying America can't take a joke anymore. The fact that they don't know to read that in a sarcastic tone.
Well, some of it feels malicious. Not malicious, that's too strong. But like, I think there are people who want it to be like, this guy's turning on Trump and whatever else.
Makes
like,
for a great headline.
They're going to skip the context because it serves the fact that they're trying to get a negative article out today.
Right.
Foxbat25 says, Tim, what's the update with David Pakman coming on the Culture War? Dying to see this conversation ever since you mentioned it a month or two ago, and now I can't seem to find anything out about it. Oh boy, it's so, look, what do we want with the Culture War? Big debates. And so now a bunch of people are saying that we should have Cat Turd on and a couple other people and do the big debate about, hey, you got beef? turn it into a show, and it's good because it starts with and ends with vote for Trump, right? So everybody wins. And I'm like, I don't know, like if that gets organized and it happens, sure. David Pakman obviously is someone who we want to have on. He's just busy. He hosts his own show. And so to have someone like Kyle Kalinske or David Pakman or Cenk Uygur or Anna Kasparian or anybody be like, hey, stop doing your show, fly out here to do our show, it's always a big challenge. So I never hold it against any of the, like, I'll criticize the liberals when they refuse to come on the show for fake reasons. But any liberal pundit who's like, hey, man, look, I'm doing my show all morning. There's no way I can make it out. I say, yeah, fair point. Same for me. So that's basically the issue with David. He immediately said yes. Tremendous respect. He was like, I absolutely want to come on. He wants to just be one-on-one, me and him having a conversation about the issues. And then he's like, I got to find schedule in when I can. Because him coming out here is a lot harder to do. And there's no way I could go there. So we got asked to go to California recently. And I'm like, I do a morning show and a night show. So that means I have to fly Friday night. We have to have an advanced crew set up a mobile studio so I can do my morning show and the nightly show. It is really hard to do. That's why most of the stuff we do is going to be East Coast. Midwest is as far as we go. Texas was really rough. We had a truck carrying a trailer full of everything like 3 days in advance. Everyone's super tired. It's super expensive. Des Moines was real tough. And then Milwaukee was brutal because the airlines canceled everything. So if we're doing stuff East Coast, though, it's pretty easy. Like Ohio, we're thinking about maybe doing something in Ohio soon. I can't say too much yet, but that's super easy.
Tell me JD Vance is going to be there.
Because that's like 3 hours. Maybe Vivek. That'd be really cool.
That would be cool.
Yes.
Because I want him to take that Senate seat.
But I will just say the purpose of going to Ohio is high-profile individuals have requested if possible. But Ohio is only a couple-hour drive for us. Super easy. That means our advanced crew could leave morning of and get set up. And then Friday afternoon after Culture War, we could easily just drive there and then drive back at night. Super low cost, super easy to do. So East Coast is really easy. That being said, look out for Ohio. It's going to be a lot of fun. This one, I don't know if we do an event in Ohio with what we're planning, I think it'll be a free event as well.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. So I won't say much more than that because we don't have anything hammered out, but it's going to be like a first come, first serve kind of thing. And probably going to be big.
I'm staying tuned.
Very big. But we'll see. All right. Greg Duvier says, Tim, I appreciate you quote posting my big picture post. Never thought nobody like me would have one of these comments quote posted from a high profile person like you. Well, there you go. I don't know. If it's on the internet, we find it. Lunderwear says, as a 2-time Purple Heart recipient, former Marine, please say in Trump's voice, Tibby lied about going to war so he could dodge bullets, but not quite like me, literally.
Well done.
All right, Smoke Detectors with an Attitude says, the only way Rogan's endorsement could possibly disappoint you is if you expected any better from him to begin with. I've always seen him as a less obnoxious version of Bill Maher. I'll put it this way. I think Joe's voting for Trump.
Oh, yeah. I think
He's got kids.
Yep.
You got kids right now, and you're looking at what's going on in this country, and you're cognizant of the gender ideology stuff, economics.
Which he is.
You're going to be voting for Trump. Now, hold on. If Joe Rogan came out right now and says, Trump's the guy, I'm going to vote for Trump, everyone should vote for Trump, he burns a whole bunch of his moderate left-leaning audience, and they'll never then be exposed to reality. So it's the middle-of-the-road people we're trying to expose. Joe doesn't want to be overtly political. Joe came out and said, I didn't endorse RFK Jr., I just said I liked the guy. Some people said, yeah, but you said he was the only one that made sense. I don't think Joe wants to endorse anybody. I bet he's going to vote for Trump in private. I think about a lot of leftists probably think that too. They call him alt-right and white supremacist and other nonsense. That's not true. But I just think he wants to stay away from it. Let him bring out his comedian friends and then tell you Kamala Harris is crazy. Just accept that.
Yeah.
He's not going to say Trump 2024, but he's going to say Kamala's nuts. That's okay. We can accept that.
Absolutely.
All right. Dan W. says Smartmatic CEO indicted on bribery charges. Oof. Yeah, I heard about that. What else we got? Paul Calamaco says, I have heart failure. I've used all my savings. I can't pay my house. It's $1,000. If anyone can help, thanks, and God bless. Give, Send, Go, helping Paul heal. Best of luck, Paul. Sorry to hear it. I hope it does work out for you. And, yeah, man, wish you the best. Trader Potato says, can't wait to see Megadeth and Phil tomorrow at the Destroy All Enemies tour. Tim, check out the song Washington is Next. Mustaine really hit the nail on the head for what was to come. Oh, cool.
Yeah, Megadeth is awesome. Phil's killing it on that tour.
Yeah.
You seen these pictures? This guy's
Yes.
on an amazing tour.
So amazing. Rachel Pye says, plug Chicken City and let's have a chicken party. For those that don't know, Chicken City Live is a live stream where you can watch chickens. It's better during the day. And whenever you super chat, food comes down and the chickens run to eat it. Whenever $100 in super chats is collected, disco lights turn on and dance music starts. Now, I don't know if we've actually maintained Chicken City to the great degree that it was when we first launched it, but the chicken parties were basically I pressed record and I screamed chicken party and then found a song and then edited a little bit and we made this dance for the chickens. And the chickens learned as soon as they hear, when the chicken party starts, food starts pouring down like crazy. At first, the chickens didn't understand what was happening when they hear me scream, chicken party, because it's an automatic recording. The chickens would just be like looking around. And then when the food started coming down, the chickens would run to the food. Eventually, they realized me screaming chicken party meant food was coming. So the chickens would be walking around, you'd hear the scream chicken party, and they'd all bolt straight to the food dispenser and have the food come down. And
That's
I'll never
sick
forget
experiment.
being in the RV, the old RV, being behind the Daily Wire studio, and you had just launched Chicken City, and then they're pretty serious over there. We're out back just laughing at chicken parties.
And Jeremy Boring's in there, and I was like, yeah, I think we pulled in about $20,000 off Chicken City this month. And he was like, what?
Oh, man,
CEO of the
that
Daily
was
Wire is like, you
hilarious.
made $20,000 off this? I was like, yes. But because everybody, honestly, the novelty at first of being able to feed the chickens remotely and trigger a party, people were dumping money, like thousands of dollars per day to watch the parties.
Yeah.
And then after a while, the novelty wears off and it normalized to a decent amount where it paid the cost of us. Like we basically have free chickens because it covers the cost of all the food and supplies and electricity. So, Chicken City. It was fun stuff.
So they are paying their own rent. That's interesting.
They absolutely are.
Not like Shane's children.
We bought potato starch, like planks, like I don't know what you'd call it. And the idea was to make them into paychecks using, safe coloring, maybe like a little bit of berry juice to write up paychecks for the chickens. And then we wanted to film feeding them, like, here's your paycheck, and then they eat it.
Amazing.
But they did not like the potato starch.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they didn't want to eat it.
Only place I've ever worked where my colleagues lay eggs that I eat. It's very interesting.
Yeah, do we still have
What a
Roberto
concept.
Jr. on the website? I think we do.
I hope
Maybe.
so.
Well, he died. He had a heart attack. For real. Yeah, Roberto Jr. had a heart attack and died suddenly.
Is this a chicken?
He was a rooster. Yeah, he was the rooster. Roberto is back in charge, healthy as ever. Healthy as ever.
How many roosters do you think have been on billboards in Times Square? Probably just one.
Probably a couple.
A couple?
Yeah, probably hundreds.
Gotta look into that.
Hundreds?
I'm gonna look into this.
Hundreds.
I'm investigating.
Yeah,
Hundreds.
This is good.
I'd bet hundreds. A lot of companies use roosters as mascots. And when you're showing breakfast foods and things like that, they're very commonly used. So,
Well, maybe I want to make it more specific. And how many actual character roosters have been on a billboard in Times Square? Not just a drawing of one. Looking into it.
I don't think the Disney company has a rooster, so probably very few.
Yeah.
Look into it.
They'd have to alter the coloring of the rooster now, too.
Matt P. says, not a fan of Rogan simply because he normalizes drug use and drinking in front of millions. At a time when our men are becoming effeminate, obese, and pacifist, while millions of military-aged men invade our country purposefully. I can understand your opinion. I can agree to a certain extent, but I also would push back a little bit. I believe you are correct. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't like doing it. I try to do as healthy as I can. We have glass bottled water. Today I've got plastic water. I'm not perfect. However, I recognize that we exist in the context of all that which came. You know where I'm going. We exist in the context of all that came before us. What do you think? We just fell out of a coconut tree? So Joe exists in the context as well in which regular people live. But Joe is also an MMA commentator. UFC guys are based. He exercises. He works out. He advocates for very healthy things. He calls out the chemicals and the garbage in our food. The things that Joe Rogan advocates for are very middle of the road, but slight net positive. I don't like the drinking and the smoking. Yeah, but people do, and they're allowed to do it. If Joe then says, exercise, get fit, do it for yourself, take your vitamins and work out, then that's a very, very good thing. I got to tell you, man, Joe is very, very pro exercise, workout, and be a man. And I had a conversation with him a while ago where he was like, bro, are you lifting? And I was like, I don't lift. He's like, you got to lift, dude. You got to start lifting. Taking vitamins? And I was like, I do take a multivitamin. No, you got to take more vitamins. So trust me when I say it's a positive influence. Not everybody's perfect, but Joe is an absolute net positive for the direction of the society.
And he talks a lot about a lot of his comedian friends bringing them to the gym. and working
Yeah,
out.
and
like,
sitting in the sauna, doing the cold plunge, red light therapy.
I know. He's posting eating meat. He's like, watches him. Go to his Instagram, dude. He is telling people to cold plunge, to sauna, to eat meat. He hunts elk.
Eat that steak, baby. Eat that steak.
You know, man, you take the good with the bad, and if it's a net positive, you accept it. Nothing's perfect, you know. If it was net negative, net bad, like Young Turks, we say, no, none of that. You know, go away. You get out of here. All right, let's see. Chase Starkey says, RFK was 100% right about the Indigenous Peoples Day thing, and it made you look silly. Wrong. I believe that I believe he was caught off guard with that. RFK Jr. launched his campaign by saying it was Indigenous Peoples Day. Mm-hmm. That is divisive and unnecessary. And I said, why even say Indigenous or Columbus? Like, if you really want to just remain out of it, don't use either. And he's like, oh, some people call it this, some people call it that. And I'm like, it's Columbus Day. Activists changed the name for political reasons, and it pisses off a lot of people in Philly particularly. There was a big deal about it where a bunch of guys showed up to the Columbus statue angry about this stuff. How about you just don't be divisive? And he said, I got to be honest, this strikes at your credibility when you bring this stuff up. Oh, that's not an answer. That is an emotional dig to try and make me go, what do you think? I'm so weak-willed that I'd be like, well, I didn't mean to bring it up. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't actually believe this. Please don't offend my credibility. Shut up. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Don't say stupid things like Indigenous Peoples Day if you're trying to claim you're uniting people, okay? I like RFK Jr. I think he's fantastic on environmental toxins. I think he should endorse Trump, and I think Trump needs to bring him in on these specific issues related to big pharma and environmental toxins, chemicals in the water, all of that stuff. This would be fantastic. But I think when he tried that play, it was a weak counter. He could have just said, okay. And that would, you want to really deflate the tires when I say, you said Indigenous Peoples Day. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Okay. And then I would have been like, all right.
You got a little defensive.
He got defensive. If he just said, yeah, maybe. Jordan Peterson famously had that moment when he was being interviewed, and he says, you know, businesses should be allowed to choose who they let in or discriminate if they want to. You should be able to, you know, tell people what they have to do. And then I can't remember which comedian it was. He says, what about if it was black people to be discriminated against? And then Jordan goes, oh, yeah, maybe I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Just that simple.
Yeah.
Just take the gas right out. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I was wrong.
It's like when you're trying to start a fight with your significant other.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
maybe I'm
particular
wrong.
interview.
Wait, what? There's
that
no
interview
fight?
was so heavily edited too. I forget what that guy's name was, but he had a
nasty
thing of
guy.
doing that. Yeah,
he's a nasty guy. They say one of the worst, but you know it's okay. All right. Riley Gerald says code Tim gets you free shipping for sourdough. Ooh. Glory Farm knocks on socials. I've tried sending this super chat for 10 minutes. I'm using wrong speak, I guess. Yeah, they don't like sourdough. Everybody's doing sourdough these days. Let's go. Eli Bedokovich says, hey, Tim, thought I'd drop by and give everyone a bit of white pill news since it's cultural. There was a leak for Half-Life 3. It seems it's still in development. Oh, everybody's really excited about Half-Life, huh? The American Hillbilly says, agree on the Rogan take, but conservatives believe we're literally at war over the future of our country. They take the position that if you're not with us, you're against us. No room for fence sitting. Well, I'll also mention, we didn't mention Dilly, the Dilly meme guy.
Oh, God.
I pointed out that I was pro Bernie in 2015. Bernie Sanders. Bernie and Trump overlapped on a lot of things. Secure border, working class, better jobs for the working class. Bernie Sanders said open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. We wanted better trade agreements. He thought TPP was bad. And then he got, axed by the Democrats, so Trump made the most sense. Dilly's response was basically like, F you for voting for Bernie, get out of here. And it's just like, okay. Like, let's tell all of the post-liberals, you are not welcome in MAGA. Go away.
Yeah, how well is that going to work?
9 million people voted for Obama and switched to Donald Trump in 2016. Tell them all to F off. Mm-hmm. Tell them all, go bye-bye. We don't want you.
People left Bernie to vote for Trump.
Because Bernie and Trump were the populists,
right,
and Trump was an unknown. For me, it was like, Trump seems silly. Bernie at least is saying no war. He's saying TPP is bad. He's saying we need better trade agreements. And I'm like, yeah, I like all that stuff. Trump was saying it too, but Trump was crass. Bernie gets axed, and I say, Trump, he makes way more sense than Hillary. I didn't vote for him either way, though. And then 2020, Trump releases a second-term agenda, and I was like, I could not deny it. For me to say I would not support this agenda would be a lie. All of it makes sense, and all of it is a good thing. And no new wars, you got to take it.
Yeah.
So let's tell all of the people who wanted Bernie for one reason or another, you're going to get more victories with Donald Trump than anyone else. Come on board, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's grab some more Super Chats. All right. Tiny Ant King says, Tim, the answer to where was this transgender stuff 100 years ago is Weimar Republic. First ever reassignment surgery was performed there on a Danish girl. Quote, see, film, the Nazis burned books exactly like this book is gay. Indeed, they did. The Rush says, no one will remember this Rogan criticism. Remember that Trump was just shot less than 3 weeks ago, and people are barely talking about it now. Indeed, indeed. All right. Jesse Darren says, more independence means less government relevancy. The government gains power when people rely on it, which is why it prefers immigrants who need more support over citizens. The great replacement is real. Well, Democrats also want to change the census. They need to bring more people into their districts so that they can get more congressional seats. All right, we can grab a couple more here before we roll out. Roy K says, bring on Rollo Tomasi. This lady would see the truth about what's going on in the female-centric society and why it's hard to find a good man. We did bring on Rollo Tomasi. When was he here? He was on Culture War a while ago, wasn't he? It was Culture War?
And
that
I
was a
don't
good
think
show.
you said you didn't see why. It's funny that they're immediately like, she doesn't understand. Like,
let's go. Nikki Ryan Frost says, what about Commie Kamala? Since Trump already called Hillary and Joe crooked, I think that adjective may be done. Commie Kamala seems like the most fitting, or Kamila, in my opinion. I'm a huge fan. Keep it up. It's really just about the simple things. So the reason why I said crooked Hillary, Lion Ted. Commie may be a little bit too specific. I think Vivek, I don't know if it was Vivek, someone, that could work. But it really is just easy to say like creepy Kamala. She's creepy. She's weird. That's why they did the weird thing. Mm-hmm. Kolishnikov says, just call the dude Stolen Valor Tim. Immediately every veteran in the country hears that and knows how bad Tim Waltz is. That's actually a really good point. Good. Stolen Valor Tim, they call him. Claiming he was in war when he wasn't. Mm-hmm. When good, brave men and women answered the call and they made the ultimate sacrifice. He knew his deployment was coming, decided to leave anyway, and then went on to say that he served in war. How about that?
Joe Biden says his son died at war all the time.
Yep.
They don't
But
care.
is that him being misleading, or does you think he doesn't remember the circumstances?
Well,
it depends which Biden we're talking
never
to.
know.
All right, everybody. It is time. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Become a member at timcast.com. Share the show with your friends. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL for clips on Instagram. You can follow me personally on X, if you dare, at Timcast, and Instagram as well. Caitlin, you want to shout anything out?
Just follow us at TP Action. Download our app, TP Action, tpaction.com/chase, and get involved. This is the time.
Well, it was fun being here. You can find the show Inverted World live on YouTube. We go live every Sunday at 6 o'clock. Talk about cryptids, aliens, true crime, brainwashing like MK Ultra. It's been a lot of fun. We're on, I think, 13 episodes now. So it feels like we just started.
Is that unlucky or lucky?
Well, 13th actually did have some issues because that house might be haunted. But yeah, we'll see you on Sunday. You can also find my new song, Payday. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter at Shane Cashman. Check it out. What's up, Hannah Claire?
It's been so fun having you both here. It's been a fun show. I always like our Friday shows. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com at Scanner News. Follow our work at Timcast News. We have a really amazing team. They do cool stuff, and you should check it out. If you don't follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at hannahclaireb. Have a great weekend. Thanks for everything you do.
We'll have clips up on the channel throughout the weekend, but then we will see you all on Monday. Thanks for hanging out.